The bound figure looked indifferently at Su Zimo. "How did you enter this hall?" he asked. "Anywhere I wish to go, I go," Su Zimo replied. "This place is ruled by my primal Daos," Lu Sheng said. "It's not somewhere others can simply walk into." "I see. It must be the avatar helping you." "That's not important," Su Zimo said. "Legend says you were the first Saint Sovereign known to be slain by the White Emperor. But it seems you're very much alive. Living like this, is it any different from being dead?" Lu Sheng replied flatly. "Why have you come?" "I stumbled upon this strange city and entered out of curiosity," Su Zimo said. "Then can you help me leave?" Lu Sheng asked. But before Su Zimo could answer, his eyes dimmed. "No, never mind. My life and death souls have been severed. Even if I leave, what would it change?" His body, bound by chains, swayed weakly. His long, tangled hair covered his face. With a bitter chuckle, he recited, "In ancient days I roamed beyond the three realms. Spirits and gods obeyed my command. Now I rot within this prison of primal Tao. 10,000 years, and none remember my name. Truly, life is absurd. Absurd indeed." Su Zimo walked slowly up to him. It was clear that the once proud, unrestrained Saint Sovereign was gone. What stood before him now was a broken, miserable remnant of that legend. Saint Sovereign Lu Sheng raised his head and met Su Zimo's gaze. "Do me a favor," he said suddenly. "What is it?" "Kill me," Lu Sheng said with unwavering resolve. "Let me die with dignity, worthy of my saintly title. In the past, I fought the White Emperor here. He could have killed me outright, but because my greed ruined his grand plan, he instead destroyed my soul and imprisoned me here, to suffer eternally, unable to die. To die like this, isn't that shameful for a Saint Sovereign?" Su Zimo asked. "And what of all those trapped here? Are they not more pitiful still?" Lu Sheng countered. "What is this city, really?" Su Zimo asked. "When I entered, everyone seemed to have the power of a Saint Sovereign." "Are you sure those were people?" Lu Sheng asked suddenly. Su Zimo paused, realizing something. "Don't bother guessing," Lu Sheng continued. "Those weren't people. They were manifestations of my own Saint Sovereign primal Tao. My primal Tao is the primal Tao of formlessness. Without heart, without form, it embraces all things. When I was slain, my hair became the bamboo banana forest. My limbs were bound to suppress the demonic tower. My body sank into the hell sea, and my primal Tao solidified into this solitary city. If you die, won't these primal Taos disappear? Wouldn't that be a pity?" Su Zimo asked. "This is what you're after, my primal Tao," Lu Sheng said with a faint smile. "But don't even think about it. Without reaching the realm of the Saint Sovereign, even if I gave you my primal Tao, what use would it be? How would you know if I didn't try?" Su Zimo countered. "If we only do what everyone else can, then what's the point? Only by doing what others cannot can we achieve what others never will." Lu Sheng gave a small laugh. "You make a fair point, but why should I give it to you?" "Because if I carry your primal Tao forward," Su Zimo said, "and reach the peak of this world, your name will not be forgotten." He added, "If you have any last wish, tell me. I'll see it done." He knew he might be pushing too far, but it was all he could offer. A Saint Sovereign's primal Tao was beyond anything he had ever touched before, and he couldn't deny his desire for it. Lu Sheng fell silent for a long time before finally speaking again. "I have only one wish," he said quietly. Su Zimo's eyes lit up. "A wish is good. What I fear most are those who desire nothing. Tell me." "I was born into the Lu heavenly clan of the Demighost region," Lu Sheng began. "Long ago I severed ties with them. After becoming a Saint Sovereign, I never returned. Later, I learned that back when I was pursuing the Tao to become a Grand Emperor, my family offended a powerful enemy. Fearing they would delay my ascension, they cut me off. For all these years, I've wanted to go back, but fate never allowed it. Now it's impossible. Go to the Lu heavenly clan for me. If they need help, help them. That is my only wish." "All right, I promise," Su Zimo said with a nod. I can assist you, Lu Sheng said. But remember this, my primal Tao belongs to the realm of the Saint Sovereigns. If you cannot wield it, that's your own burden to bear. Su Zimo nodded slightly, then raised Shadow Tyrant, aiming to cut through the chains binding Lu Sheng. Just then, the air beside them began to ripple. The robed scholar and the child Su Zimo had seen back at the White Emperor's mausoleum appeared nearby. So you finally decided to show yourselves? Lu Sheng said mockingly. I thought you'd hide forever. We didn't come for you, the scholar replied calmly. He turned to Su Zimo. Young master, we meet again. Not exactly a meeting I wanted, Su Zimo said flatly. I understand, the scholar said with a faint smile. You wish to save him, but those imprisoned by the White Emperor cannot be released so easily. You think you can stop me? Su Zimo asked, his eyes narrowing. I have no desire to be your enemy. Otherwise, you'd never have made it this far, the scholar said lightly. But the White Emperor has his rules. Things must be done accordingly. Then what's the rule for saving him? Su Zimo asked. Don't tell me it's about inheriting someone's will again. If you don't wish to do that, there's another way, the scholar said. What way? Kill everyone in this place. Become the sole survivor of this final battleground, and you'll be granted one wish. With that wish, you can save him, and I won't interfere. Su Zimo looked at the scholar, then at Lu Sheng and smiled. That was my goal from the beginning, he said. And my companion outside? She's fine, the scholar replied. Then I'll wait here for your result, he said. Be careful of the demonic tower and the Hell Sea, Lu Sheng said gravely. Su Zimo nodded. If Lu Sheng went so far as to warn him, those two places were surely extraordinary. After Su Zimo left the hall, Lu Sheng turned to the scholar. What is your true purpose? He asked coldly. Just providing nourishment for the White Emperor, the scholar said with a calm smile. Don't worry. They seek inheritance, we seek sustenance. It's a fair exchange. I don't believe a word you say, Lu Sheng replied flatly. The world worships the White Emperor, but none of them realize that he is the true evil. Lu Sheng, that's not fair, the scholar in the Confucian robe said with a faint smile and a shake of his head. Every emperor and saint since the dawn of time, whose hands weren't stained with blood. You were no different. Hearing this, Lu Sheng fell silent, unwilling to argue. When Su Zimo walked out of the Great Hall, he found the entire city had returned to normal. Ji Juning was sitting cross-legged nearby, quietly healing her injuries. Seeing Su Zimo emerge, she quickly stood up. What was inside? She asked. If I told you it was Lu Sheng, would you believe me? Su Zimo asked. You met Lu Sheng. Ji Juning froze. He's still alive? Not much different from a corpse, Su Zimo said with a dismissive wave. Let's go. Go where? She asked quickly. To kill everyone, Su Zimo said calmly, his eyes steady. There are 5 major sects and 3 great academies. Besides Heaven Mammoth and you, 5 others remain. But this battlefield is vast. Finding them won't be easy, Ji Juning pointed out. That's not an issue, she explained when Su Zimo didn't reply. As time passes, this battlefield will gradually shrink. The death energy surrounding it will start closing in. Even a grand emperor can't endure that for long. Eventually, everyone will be forced into the center to fight. Su Zimo nodded. That's interesting. But if we can find the map brought by our former senior brother from Northern Hills Fox Clan, Ji Juning continued, we'll understand the layout of this place and seize the advantage. As they spoke, they left the city behind. They had come from the south, so now they moved northward. Su Zimo already had a rough sense of direction. He had gone from ruins to the Plantain Forest, then to the Phantom City. He wondered what the next place would be. They crossed a vast plain, no trees in sight, just endless grass rippling underfoot. In the distance, a faint outline of a village appeared. As they approached, the smell of blood filled the air. On a nearby stone stele, 3 words were carved. Whitewood Village. The moment they stepped inside, Green blood spurted from the ground. The corpses of whitewood trees, creatures that had long gained sentience, lay scattered across the road, hacked apart. All things possess spirit. These trees had cultivated life, yet now they were slaughtered. Su Zimo and Ji Juning walked deeper into the village. The further they went, the more corpses they saw. It was clearly a large settlement. At the very end stood a single figure, back turned to them. She wore a tight black outfit, 2 swords, one long, one short, strapped to her sides. Her short hair brushed her ears, and the air around her churned with killing intent. "Who are you?" Ji Juning asked first. 7 kills, the woman said softly, turning with a faint smile. "Young Master Su, you truly have a short memory." "So it's you," Su Zimo said, smiling faintly. "Didn't expect to find you this easily." Their gazes met. Ripples of killing intent swelled between them like rising waves. "Perfect," 7 kills said coldly, drawing her 2 mismatched blades. "The humiliation Ghost God Collegium suffered that day, I'll take it back today." Though she wasn't trained by the academy directly, she had been taught by one of the 9 ghost gods and thus considered herself part of their lineage. The 2 blades spun between her palms, their sharp aura cutting through the air. A faint breeze passed, and before Su Zimo even saw the sword's movement, a few strands of his hair floated down. A chill suddenly pressed against his throat. He raised his blade, Shadow Tyrant. In front of him, steel met steel with a thunderous clang. Su Zimo's arm trembled slightly under the force. 7 kills spun the short sword back into her grip, expression calm. Ji Juning's eyes flickered. Behind her, the white fox appeared once again, growling lowly before pouncing towards 7 kills. "Step back," Su Zimo shouted. But it was too late. As the white fox lunged, 7 kills' pupils suddenly shifted into a triangular shape. The 2 swords spun at blinding speed, her body twisting with impossible precision. With 3 quick strikes, slash, 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 the white fox's body was torn apart. The swordplay was too fast, unreal. In an instant, the massive fox was reduced to shreds of meat. Though it was a summoned spirit, the damage it suffered was real. Ji Juning spat blood, her face turning pale. "Step back," Su Zimo said quietly. "She's mine." He looked at 7 kills. The name itself, 7 kills, came from the 6th star of the Big Dipper, the star that governs slaughter and destruction, the most violent among the celestial bodies. 7 kills charged forward, her long and short blades weaving a storm of sword winds. Su Zimo's Shadow Tyrant swept upward. A boom split the air, both swords shattered. 7 kills looked at the broken blades in her hands and said calmly, "Good sword." She raised her right hand toward the sky. "Sword, come." A surge of immense sword intent answered her call. The dim sky above brightened. 7 stars ignited across the heavens. "The night I was born," 7 star swords fell from the sky. "The mark of the 7 kill star burned into my chest," 7 kills said softly. "My teacher named me after it, 7 kills." As her words fell, a radiant sword descended from the heavens, a sword carved from starlight itself. The blade shimmered like a constellation, its glow cascading like a river of light. Behind that beauty, however, was a killing intent so dense it nearly swallowed the air. 7 kills slowly raised the 7-star sword, its brilliance flaring. "The grand 1,000 beings, the 62 paths, 7-star heaven sword," she intoned. Su Zimo smiled slightly. He didn't announce his own weapon's name. Shadow Tyrant, now fused with the Grand Pivot God Sword, feared no divine weapon under heaven. The 7-star heaven sword shot forward, stars flaring along its edge. Su Zimo's blade swung to meet it, steel and starlight collided. The explosion that followed drowned the air, and the 2 figures crossed paths and separated again. When it came to blades and steel, Su Zimo had never feared anyone. Endless streams of blade intent surged like rivers, sweeping through the void. The oppressive force of his knife began to overwhelm 7 kills. The clash of metal rang out again and again. "Blood-stained edge," 7 kills whispered. A crimson sheen coated her blade, the bloodlit sword cleaving through the air in a deadly arc. Suzumo stepped back, narrowly avoiding it. Flying stream. Soul reversal. Her voice was cold, and with each cry, the seven-star sword flared brighter. Blooms of killing light unfurled from the sword tip, beautiful and deadly. Each strike descended like a waterfall of death, tearing through the air. Dust to dust. Falling stars. Sword rose, sword fell. Life and death intertwined. Stars shone brightly, only to fade in an instant. It was the cycle of existence, the rise and fall of all things. Suzumo kept retreating as the storm intensified. Seven Kills' aura was immense. Her killing intent surged higher and higher. One of her slashes caught him at the waist. Blood splattered, but the wound sealed almost instantly. Myriad extinction. Blood samsara. The seven-kill sword art had 7 forms, and she unleashed them all. The final stroke formed a blood-red vortex in the sky. The wheel of blood spun rapidly, shredding the void itself as it descended toward Suzumo. Before he could move, he was engulfed within it, his limbs locked in place. Seven Kills raised her sword, the tip glowing with both starlight and malice. But within that killing aura, Suzumo felt something foreign, an echo of the ghost god's power. Someone was channeling through her blade, trying to kill him. Of the 9 ghost gods, only Kuei and Abyssal Chimera had crossed him. He doubted any other would intervene. But the force approaching him now was unmistakably that of a ghost god. Kill! Seven Kills roared, driving the sword through Suzumo's chest. The blade pierced flesh and spirit, shaking the air with thunderous energy. Yet her face didn't show triumph, only deep concern. Behind Suzumo, 3 great doors rose from nothingness. The Heaven Unity 3 life gates, one of the 10 primordial god scriptures. The gate of life, the gate of death, and the gate of eternity. That final gate could block any harm. It was the very essence of transcendence. Suzumo broke free, his right hand snapping up to seize the seven-star sword. With a flick of his finger, the immense energy within him surged, blasting 7 Kills backward. Behind him, a colossal shadow loomed, the heaven-shattering giant. Its roar shattered the blood reincarnation vortex. Dragging Shadow Tyrant across the ground, Suzumo walked forward. Sparks hissed beneath the blade's edge. Looking down at her, he asked, "Who wants me dead? Isn't killing you reason enough?" 7 Kills said with a faint smirk, retreating a step. "Not you, the one behind you," Suzumo said quietly. "I don't understand what you mean," she replied coldly. "You will," Suzumo said. He gathered power in his palm, the heaven-shattering giant's strength flowing into him. He stomped once, earth cracked. Wind howled around his legs as he dashed forward. 7 Kills lifted her sword to block, but Shadow Tyrant crashed down like a falling star. The impact tore her sword apart, the ground caving beneath her feet. Another strike sent her 7-star sword flying from her grasp. "Slash," Suzumo said, swinging again toward her unarmed form. 7 Kills' eyes flashed. Behind her, her true fate appeared, the 7 Kill star itself. The heavens blazed with its light as lines of starlight connected between constellations, forming a celestial web that pulsed like living chords. "Break!" Suzumo commanded. His blade came down once more. Even the stars, as mighty as they were, shattered beneath the edge of Shadow Tyrant. Pierce, lift, shatter. Each word fell like a hammer, and with a final crack, the starry sky behind her exploded. The storm of energy settled. 7 Kills closed her eyes as Shadow Tyrant stopped just short of her neck. "Who sent you to kill me? You get one chance," Suzumo said. "You'll never get the answer," 7 Kills said with a faint, bloodied smile. "Kill me if you want. It changes nothing." "No," Suzumo said softly. "That's because you've never experienced something worse than death." He raised his hand toward the void and swung. The very sky split apart. Those watching from the White Emperor's mausoleum gasped, the projection shattered, the image fragmenting into static. When it cleared, 7 kills was gone. Only Su Zimo stood in the ruined village. Nearby, Wu Daozi's face darkened. "Let's go," Su Zimo said, glancing at Ji Juning. She nodded silently, following behind. "You know," Su Zimo said as they walked, eyes fixed ahead. "You don't have to keep pretending." "What?" Ji Juning blinked. "You don't have to act so weak," Su Zimo said. "If Northern Hills Fox Clan were that fragile, it wouldn't rank among the 5 great powers." At his words, Ji Juning fell silent. He had seen through her. All this time, her injuries, her exhaustion, they'd all been an act to lower his guard. "I think I can sense the aura of the North Fox again," Ji Juning said after a while. Su Zimo stopped walking and looked at Ji Juning with a half-smile. "The Northern Fox is in this village," Ji Juning said. "Did you just sense it now? Or did you already know when we first entered?" Su Zimo asked. "Nothing can escape young Master Su's eyes," Ji Juning replied with a light laugh. "But that woman, 7 kills. What you shouldn't know, don't ask," Su Zimo interrupted her coldly. Ji Juning nodded slightly and began searching the village. She walked through several streets, stepping over the corpses of the whitewood trees, the green blood in the air still heavy with a sickly sweetness. Eventually, she stopped before a whitewood grove. There were thousands of whitewood trees growing there. Unlike those within the village, these had no sentience. They were newly grown and still in the process of nurturing their spirits. Above each tree hung an amber-like sphere, dull yellow and translucent. Inside these orbs, consciousness was slowly forming, just like fruit waiting to ripen. Once mature, they would fall and gain intelligence. This was likely how Whitewood Village had continued to reproduce and grow. "Dig," Ji Juning said, stopping in front of an open clearing. She stomped down hard, the ground splitting beneath her feet. With her right palm striking the earth, the soil shattered, and a deep pit formed. Damp earth flew into the air, bringing with it piles of white bones and half-rotted corpses. Ji Juning's sharp eyes scanned the heap of remains. "They've been hunting other beings, using the nutrients from their corpses to nurture the tree's intelligence," Ji Juning said coolly. "This village isn't exactly innocent." As she spoke, a sense of foreboding rose in her. It was becoming clear that the previous Northern Hill disciple who had entered this place must have died here. The more they unearthed, the more corpses appeared, piling into a small mountain of death. And as if disturbed by the desecration, something deep within the grove stirred. From the shadows came low growls and the rustling of leaves, the sound spreading from all directions. "Careful!" Su Zimo shouted. The words had barely left his mouth when countless vines shot up from beneath the fallen leaves, lashing toward them like living whips. The two spun through the air, narrowly avoiding the onslaught. Ji Juning shouted sharply, stepping on several vines while gripping others in her hands. "Leave this place," came a weary, aged voice from deep within the grove. "Who are you?" Ji Juning demanded. "Whitewood Village has already been slaughtered," the old voice replied calmly. "Let there at least be some remnants." "We didn't come to destroy," Ji Juning said quickly. "We're looking for one body, the corpse of the Northern Fox." The old voice went silent for a long while. Then the earth began to tremble violently. The surrounding whitewood trees swayed, and a towering tree, thousands of meters tall, rose from the ground. It had grayish whiskers like an ancient sage, and its massive form loomed over them, as if it were the sky itself. A thick vine suddenly descended from above, smashing into the ground and stirring the air into chaos. From the crack that followed, a massive fox skeleton slowly rose from the depths. "It's from the Northern Hill," Ji Juning said excitedly. The enormous skeleton was hurled before her, and the old voice spoke again. "Take it and leave." Ji Juning gazed at the bones before her. Though the flesh had long decayed, the pale, jade-like skeleton radiated a chilling aura that marked it unmistakably as belonging to the Northern Fox. She raised both hands, releasing waves of violet energy mixed with white spiritual light that drifted over the bones. With her eyes closed, she seemed to be sensing something. After a moment, her eyes snapped open. "Found it," Demon realm, open. Her clasped hands tore apart, and the very air before her split open like a wound. Fierce demonic winds howled, carrying sand and dust as the space fractured apart. From within that rift, a black box slowly emerged. Go, Ji Juning said. Grabbing the box and sprinting out of the grove, they fled from the Whitewood village. Not long after, the ancient Whitewood tree released countless green vines, sealing the entire area beneath its canopy, forbidding anyone from entering again. This is it, Ji Juning said, opening the box. Inside were two items: a map made of beast hide and a demon core, the Northern Fox's demon core. Without expression, she pocketed the demon core and handed the map to Su Zimo. Since the Northern Fox's core was useless to him, Su Zimo didn't contest it. He unfolded the map. Though well preserved, it was clearly aged and partly decayed. This marks Whitewood Village, Ji Juning said, instantly recognizing their location. Su Zimo nodded. He traced the map with his finger and then looked toward the horizon. Up ahead is the demonic tower. On the map, a tall black tower stood ominously, beside which was a short note: the place of sealing for the demon's 4 limbs. Su Zimo rolled up the map. Let's go. The demonic tower lies near the boundary, Ji Juning warned. We don't know who else might be there. Why not head to the Hell Sea instead? It's at the center of this battlefield. Everyone will gather there eventually. Su Zimo shook his head. Indeed, the 4 demon towers were marked at the borders of the land, but curiosity stirred within him. He wanted to know what the tower truly was, and what the White Emperor's purpose for it might be. So he had to see it for himself. Ji Juning followed behind. They traveled for a while, walking on air, until at last a towering spire came into view, piercing the heavens, shrouded in a suffocating miasma. The very sky above it was blotted out by the demonic haze. What a strong aura of evil, Ji Juning murmured. Let's take a look, Su Zimo said. When they reached the base of the tower, they saw its many levels covered in black mist. Within that darkness, faint streams of purple energy drifted upward, rising from the first floor all the way to the top. Let me out! Let me out! A hoarse, desperate voice echoed again and again from within. Look! There's someone on top! Ji Juning cried, pointing upward. Su Zimo followed her gaze. A red figure sat cross-legged atop the spire, absorbing the swirling black energy into his body. His long hair, coiled like serpents, framed a pale face with dark eyes and violet lips. It's the Ghost Prince, Su Zimo said quietly. A man from Sinful Abyss God Realm. Sinful Abyss God Realm has always been a sect of corruption, Ji Juning said coldly. Their cultivation methods revolve around demonic essence. This isn't surprising. He's not absorbing the demonic essence, Su Zimo frowned. He's channeling his own into the tower. What is he trying to do? Ji Juning asked. It doesn't matter, Su Zimo said flatly. What matters is that he's here. With a flick of his wrist, his right hand formed a blade. Limitless knife intent burst forth. The Ghost Prince's eyes shot open. Instantly, ghostly energy surged around him, clashing with Su Zimo's blade aura and scattering both into the wind. The Ghost Prince looked down, and the entire demonic tower seemed to tremble under his gaze. Why do you disturb me? He hissed, voice thin and sharp. What are you doing here? Su Zimo asked. It's none of your concern, the Ghost Prince said coolly. Leave or die. At the word die, an ocean of black mist erupted from his body. Countless screaming ghost heads emerged from it, diving down from the sky like a rain of the damned. Su Zimo said nothing. The God Blade, Shadow Tyrant, slid from its sheath, gleaming with killing intent, a silent answer. The Ghost Prince sneered, spreading his hands. The demonic air thickened, twisting into legions of spectral skulls that dove toward them, each howling with hunger and madness. Spirit Fox Realm, Ji Juning called, summoning her white fox, which leapt forward in a streak of silver light, shielding them both. When the tide of demonic energy crashed down, Ji Juning coughed up blood from the strain, but she held her ground. He's all yours, Su Zimo said calmly. I'll enter the tower. That's too dangerous, Ji Juning protested. It's not danger, it's curiosity, Su Zimo replied, shaking his head. With one great swing of Shadow Tyrant, half the sky split apart. The demonic mists burned away. Then he rushed straight into the demonic tower. Stop! The Ghost Prince screamed. Su Zimo heard laughter and weeping echo at his ears. Two ghostly infants lunged from the shadows, attacking his mind. A soul attack? Su Zimo sneered. Begone! His 9 revolutions God Tower physique flared to life, and a surge of power shattered the two spirits into nothingness. He plunged deeper into the tower. Damn it! The Ghost Prince cursed, rising to his feet. But before he could act, Ji Juning's massive white fox lunged forward, forcing him into battle. Inside the demonic tower, Su Zimo had barely entered when a purple mist lunged at him. He raised his blade, boom. The impact hurled him into the wall. Rubbing his shoulder, he looked up and saw that the mist had taken shape. A violet sphere with a distorted human face. A perfect body. It hissed with a grin. You'll make a fine vessel for my consciousness. Who are you? Su Zimo asked. Those who enter the demonic tower meet only death, it said. No need to ask about the past. As it spoke, the tower's massive gate slammed shut behind Su Zimo, sealing him in. Then let's see what death looks like, Su Zimo replied, smiling faintly. Shadow Tyrant roared to life, its blade aura shaking the air. Su Zimo slashed again and again, each cut exploding like thunder. The purple face screamed as its glow dimmed under the relentless assault. You won't leave here alive, it howled, retreating deeper into the tower. But Su Zimo's blade flashed across the void, pinning it against the wall. Just then, the sound of clapping echoed through the chamber. 1,000 years, and finally, a newcomer. A deep, mocking voice said. A man stepped out from the shadows, draped in a red and yellow fur robe. Though he had a human face, 2 white tusks jutted from his mouth. His eyes were sunken, his nose sharp and high. Before him sat a massive stone throne, upon which he lowered himself, smiling faintly. Welcome to the Western Demonic Tower. I came to learn something, Su Zimo said coldly. You have 2 choices. Tell me willingly, or I'll beat it out of you. The new generation lacks manners. The tusked man chuckled, clapping again. The tower began to tremble, the walls splitting open. From the cracks crawled beasts of all kinds, earth-splitting tigers, azure ice beasts, blood thunder god pythons, and even celestial silkworms. Su Zimo saw dozens of humanoid monsters gathering. Repeat what you just said, the tusked man sneered. Su Zimo smiled. Shadow Tyrant gleamed coldly as he charged forward. Kill, the tusked man ordered lazily, leaning back in his seat. Instantly, all the beasts roared and surged toward Su Zimo. The tower erupted into chaos. Elsewhere, in a stretch of empty void within the battlefield realm, the scholar in robes and the young boy stepped through the air. How long are we supposed to stay here? The boy asked. Don't ask, the scholar said, shaking his head. The White Emperor. The boy began, but his words cut off abruptly as his eyes widened. Before them, a graceful figure appeared out of nowhere. Who are you? The scholar asked, his aura sharpening with caution. The woman slowly turned around. It was the Moonpluck Fairy. She had vanished along with Miss Jing long ago. Without answering, she produced a jade token and held it up for them to see. You're... The scholar stammered, dropping to his knees. Knowing is enough, she said coldly. No need to say it aloud. Her voice was devoid of emotion, crisp and distant. I came to deliver a message, she continued. The demon has awakened. The scholar froze. What? Awakened? Do you even realize what that means? I don't need your reminder, she cut him off sharply. Just obey the order. The rest is not for you to worry about. Understood? The scholar said, bowing low, his face flickering with unease. When he looked up again, she was gone. Who does she think she is? Daring to point fingers at us? The child said indignantly. Just a puppet under control. The man in scholar's robes said as he stood up. A puppet? The child was startled. No wonder. She spoke stiffly, without a trace of emotion. It's not her that I fear, but the one behind her. The scholar replied, eyes deep and thoughtful. After a pause, he said, let the abyssal tyrant emerge. But once it comes out, it won't be something we can control, the child said hesitantly. You should think twice. Remember what happened with the White Emperor. Don't mention the White Emperor. The scholar raised a finger toward the sky, ending the conversation. The child quickly covered his mouth and nodded repeatedly. Inside the demonic tower, with another slash of Su Zimo's blade, screams echoed endlessly. Waves of demonic beasts fell to the ground, writhing and howling in pain. The fanged man who led them shouted angrily, useless trash! Watching Su Zimo walk forward, blade in hand, his expression turned panicked. Opening his mouth wide, he spewed out a torrent of green liquid. The stream carried a putrid, corrosive aura. Everything it touched melted like flesh burned by acid. Su Zimo sidestepped the attack, avoiding it easily. But the fanged man clearly had no intention of continuing the fight. He turned and fled upward through the demonic tower. Ahead was a tall platform. The man leapt onto it, and with a rumbling roar, the entire platform began to rise into the air. Stay, Su Zimo said coldly. The blade in his hand cut through the air, sending waves of blade energy crashing into the platform. With several loud clangs, the blade energy shattered and vanished into the structure. Su Zimo's eyes narrowed. The platform was clearly no ordinary object. He leapt up, grabbing onto its edge as it ascended rapidly. Get down! The fanged man shouted, stomping his foot, trying to crush Su Zimo's hand. But Shadow Tyrant blade flipped upward, its tip piercing through the man's right foot. He screamed in agony. Su Zimo flipped himself onto the platform. Startled, the fanged man jumped off and landed nimbly on the ground below, running toward a small door at the side. Su Zimo's eyes flashed coldly. He threw his blade through the air. Shadow Tyrant tore through the void, stabbing straight into the fanged man's chest and nailing him to the wall beside the small doorway. Su Zimo's robes billowed as he stepped into the narrow entrance. Inside, his view widened into a vast hall. The fanged man was still struggling, coughing up blood, the blade impaling him to the wall. Where is this place? Su Zimo asked. The grand hall was lit by several iron braziers burning with flickering flames. Shadows danced across the walls, which were carved with lifelike reliefs, dragons coiling through clouds, black demons reigning over the world, and strange beings drifting through the air. The fanged man only spat more blood, refusing to speak. Su Zimo pulled out his blade. The man collapsed to the ground. Talk, Su Zimo said, but the man just smiled eerily through the blood. Black Demon Eternal. After uttering those words, his entire body melted into a puddle of black pus and vanished. Su Zimo frowned slightly. He examined the carvings on the walls. Touching them revealed some cold, others hot. After a moment, he turned and disappeared into the shadows. Not long after he left, the black blood on the floor began to reform, shaping once again into the fanged man, who immediately knelt down in terror. Lord Abyssal Tyrant, he said, trembling, not daring to lift his head. From the carvings on the wall, a mass of black mist surged forth, swallowing the hall in darkness. A deep, magnetic voice echoed, "Who allowed you to bring outsiders here?" "I came for help. That man, we couldn't defeat him," the fanged man stammered. "Help? You could die and it would mean nothing. Your worthless life ruined my resurrection plan. Can you afford that?" The black mist said coldly. "It's my fault. I deserve death," the fanged man cried, bowing repeatedly, his head striking the ground with loud thuds. The black mist grew thicker, ready to engulf him completely, until a white light suddenly cut through the darkness. The child appeared, holding an amber-like crystal in his hand. "What are you doing here?" the voice in the mist asked, suppressing its fury. "To release you," the child said simply. "Don't be ridiculous. You dare release me?" The voice carried mocking disbelief. But the child didn't waste words. He threw the crystal directly into the mist. As it pierced through the black fog, the crystal shattered into countless fragments. "You?" The voice sounded shocked, but then burst into laughter. The laughter shook the air, roaring up to the heavens, rattling the clouds themselves. "At last, after all these centuries, the world shall bow before me again." From outside the demonic tower, one could see black tornadoes swirling across the sky. Dark clouds pressed down so heavily it felt as if the heavens were collapsing. Evil energy surged. The Ghost Prince and Ji Juning both looked toward the tower. A massive black arm burst from the tower, sweeping across the world. Lightning tore through the sky. And it wasn't just one tower, all 4 demonic towers erupted in the same way. At the very center, over the Hell Sea, the ocean boiled violently, bubbles bursting as if something beneath struggled to break free. In the now empty hall, the child's eyes narrowed. He turned to leave, only to hear footsteps behind him. "Why release the abyssal tyrant, the one the White Emperor sealed with such effort?" a calm voice asked. The child froze, turning toward the doorway. Su Zimo stood there, leaning against the frame, blade in his arms, smiling faintly. "When did you get here?" the child asked. "Earlier than you," Su Zimo replied. "I saw everything, what I should and shouldn't have seen." "This matter is complicated," the child said. "You don't need to explain. I just want to know why release the abyssal tyrant." Su Zimo asked. "That has nothing to do with you," the child frowned. "When the abyssal tyrant emerges, everyone in this battlefield will die. You think that has nothing to do with me?" Su Zimo shot back. "Telling you won't change anything," the child said coldly. "Then stay here," Su Zimo said, stepping forward and bringing down his blade. But the child didn't dodge. Shadow Tyrant struck him, his body dissolving into nothingness. "A clone," Su Zimo muttered, frowning. He rushed out of the tower and looked to the sky. The heavens had turned pitch black. Evil energy surged like a tidal wave, converging toward the Hell Sea at the center. Ji Juning stood nearby. Beside her, the Ghost Prince was kneeling devoutly on the ground. "Abyssal Tyrant, protector of my sinful abyss god realm, your servant bows before you." He looked like a zealot, worshipping feverishly. As he bowed, the demonic aura around him grew denser until his body dissolved into the air. "The abyssal tyrant has blessed me," he shouted in mad ecstasy before vanishing completely. "That man lost his mind," Ji Juning said softly. "Then he's better off dead, one less rival," Su Zimo said lightly. "Let's go." "Go where?" Ji Juning asked quickly. "The Hell Sea," Su Zimo replied. Among the 3 great academies and 5 powerful sects that entered this battlefield, most had already perished. Apart from Su Zimo and Ji Juning, only 3 remained: Crimson Soaring Emperor, Wrathful Emperor, and Grand Emperor Hidden Sky. The 2 raced toward the Hell Sea using the map to guide them. "Before reaching the Hell Sea, there's a guardian river," Ji Juning said while studying the map. "It seems to circle the sea entirely." "It looks more like a seal," Su Zimo said. "We can wait by the guardian river," Ji Juning suggested. "No need to rush in. If the abyssal tyrant emerges, we should avoid his wrath and see how the others react." Su Zimo said nothing, but deep down, he felt the abyssal tyrant was coming for him. There was no proof, just an instinct. "This abyssal tyrant will be troublesome," he thought. "Forget the Hell Sea," he suddenly said midway. "What? Why?" Ji Juning asked, confused. "We're going back to the solitary city," Su Zimo said, changing direction. He now knew that the scholar and the child were far from allies. There was no need to wipe out everyone else. Saving Lu Shang might provide the answers he needed. They sped toward the solitary city, but before they reached it, a powerful divine pressure swept over them. Before the city gates, countless citizens stood in rows like an iron wall, each radiating holy power. "Stay here. With your strength, you won't make it in," Su Zimo said. "Be careful," Ji Juning replied. Su Zimo nodded. He knew that forcing his way through would cost time and strength. "Red Blade Bull Demon," Su Zimo shouted. "Old Bull here," a thunderous voice answered. "Clear the way," Su Zimo commanded. At once, a majestic aura of Saint's sovereign power erupted. A colossal bull demon appeared, its eyes glowing red, fur as thick as iron, horns crackling with lightning. "Those who block my master, die." The bull demon charged forward. The holy citizens were like paper before him, fragile and powerless. "Suppress him," thousands of voices shouted in unison. Their combined holy might pressed down, weighing heavily on Red Blade Bull Demon. Its legs sank into the earth, cracks spreading beneath its hooves. "You have the aura of saints but not their strength." "Empty power," Red Blade Bull Demon snorted, white vapor puffing from its nostrils. With a roar that split the sky, Red Blade Bull Demon shattered the pressure, flinging all the defenders aside. Su Zimo walked into the city, hands behind his back. From a distance, Ji Juning trembled as she watched. "Saint Sovereign? That's impossible. Just what kind of person is he?" Su Zimo entered the grand hall. No one dared stop him. "You're smarter than I thought." Lu Shang's weak voice came from within. "You knew?" Su Zimo said, frowning. "Yes, but I couldn't tell you before," Lu Shang replied. "Besides, if you couldn't survive up to this point, you wouldn't be worth trusting." Su Zimo said nothing. He simply raised his blade and cut the chains binding Lu Shang. With two loud crashes, the chains shattered. Though they struggled to resist, they were no match for Shadow Tyrant's sharpness. As the chains broke, Lu Shang collapsed to the ground. Su Zimo moved to help him, but Lu Shang lifted a hand to stop him. "No need, I can stand," Lu Shang said, gritting his teeth as he forced himself up. The once mighty Saint Sovereign now looked frail, a sight both tragic and awe-inspiring. "Let's make it quick. I won't last long," Lu Shang said. "You broke the chains, yes, they imprisoned me, but they also kept me alive." "What exactly is the Abyssal Tyrant?" Su Zimo asked. Millions of years ago, the White Emperor followed the Grand Empress to launch the final battle. They angered the heavens, and thus the heavens sent down the Abyssal Tyrants, what history calls the Abyssal Tyrant Calamity. Lu Shang said. The Abyssal Tyrant's purpose was to entangle the White Emperor, to prevent him from joining that final war. But the White Emperor was unmatched. He fought through the 9 heavens and suppressed the demons, sealing them within this battlefield. "Why didn't he kill them?" Su Zimo asked. "Because the Abyssal Tyrants were born of the heavens themselves. The White Emperor couldn't kill them," Lu Shang replied, shaking his head. "He could only imprison them, but their malice was too great. So he created the legend of slaying Lu Shang, eternally guarding the Hell Sea." Su Zimo fell silent for a moment after hearing this. "Then why have they released the Abyssal Tyrant now?" Su Zimo asked. "I don't know either," Lu Shang said with a faint smile. "All things under heaven have a cause. If the Abyssal Tyrant appears, there must be a reason." "He's probably coming for me," Su Zimo muttered under his breath. "What did you say?" Lu Shang asked. "Nothing." Su Zimo waved his hand slightly. "Remember what you promised me," Lu Shang said solemnly. "Go to the Lu Heavenly Clan in the Demighost region and fulfill my final regret. Now I will pass all of my primal Tao to you. How much you can absorb depends on your own ability." Su Zimo nodded, sitting cross-legged opposite Lu Shang. Lu Shang raised his hands, and the entire world seemed to ripple with him. The desolate city they were in began to spin and churn. "Open your heart and guard your soul. Let your flesh dissolve, and your spirit be baptized." Lu Shang's primal Tao was the formless primal Tao, one that could merge with all things. The formless primal Tao was shapeless and invisible. like time flowing through one's fingers. It surged from Lu Shang's hands into Su Zimo's body. That power coursed through the 12 meridian gates. Spring Wheel, Deep Bone, Dawn Wind, Vast Sea, Blood Veil, Dusk Pine, Void Verge, Shadowbearer, Voidrend, Prime Circle, Lightbringer, and Void Cleave. It flowed endlessly through Su Zimo's body. But the energy within Su Zimo had always been nomological truth. Now, with the primal Tao pouring in, the nomological truths began to change, and the two forces clashed violently. Even though the formless primal Tao could blend with everything, they were, in essence, two distinct powers. Before the might of the primal Tao, the nomological truths were being pushed back bit by bit. Soon, the 9 meridian gates that Su Zimo had opened were completely overtaken. The primal Tao filled his entire body, and every newly formed wisp of nomological truth was annihilated instantly. Su Zimo's body was in turmoil, like a raging storm tearing through his veins. His skin turned crimson, his blood vessels bulged and burst. His whole body looked ready to explode at any moment. This was the result of the conflict between primal Tao and nomological truth. Su Zimo's gaze steadied. Inside his body, the God world spun rapidly. Whether it was primal Tao or nomological truth, everything was suppressed within it. When the chaos finally calmed, the primordial chaos bead emerged from the Azure Planet, floating above within Su Zimo's body. Endless purifying radiance shone from it. Under this strange power, the nomological truths and the formless primal Tao softened, slowly merging and fusing together. Strange, truly strange, Lu Shang muttered to himself outside. He was clearly on the verge of collapse. So how did he suddenly become so harmonious? He glanced at Su Zimo. Everyone had their secrets. Since Su Zimo dared to attempt fusion, he must have had his own way. Lu Shang, being a dying man, had no curiosity left to pry into such matters. He waved his hand, channeling all the primal Taos of the entire city into Su Zimo's body. Outside, the desolate city began to fade as the primal Taos drained away, first from the city gates, then the residents, and then the rest of the city. In the blink of an eye, half the city had vanished. Inside Su Zimo, his nomological truths were transforming under the influence of the formless primal Tao, evolving into true primal Taos. Beside them sat the colossal figure of the Red Blade Bull Demon, guarding them, allowing no creature to come near. As time passed, the entire city disappeared completely, and all of its primal Taos had poured into Su Zimo. Even Lu Shang's own body looked frail and translucent now, as if it could dissipate at any moment. "You have such potential. Then let me help you once more," Lu Shang said softly. "I will teach you a blade technique. Watch carefully." This technique was gained from the Heavenfall record. Its name is Eightfold Heaven Splitting. As his voice fell, Lu Shang's body began to glow, transforming into a radiant stream of light, the essence of a blade that could cut through the heavens. This blade intent must be nurtured from its embryonic form. No second person will ever have the chance to cultivate it. Lu Shang's voice echoed. "Now that I have become its embryonic form, I suppose I can count it as sacrificing myself for a worthy cause." As his final words fell, Lu Shang completely vanished. Only a heaven-splitting ray of blade light bloomed in the void, condensing into the form of a small blade. It sank into Su Zimo's body. Su Zimo's eyes suddenly opened. Blade intent radiated from him, mingled with countless streams of primal Tao. He had already mastered all kinds of nomological truths. Now, with this transformation, they evolved into countless primal Taos. The primal Taos were the domain of Saint Sovereigns, yet Su Zimo, still only a Grand Emperor, possessed them. It was unheard of. The Grand Emperor realm had 5 stages. Su Zimo was currently in the 3rd, God Unity. After that came Life, Death, and Sovereign Lord. For someone still at the God Unity stage to wield primal Taos, Su Zimo had neither seen nor heard of such a thing. He looked inward, seeing within him the Eightfold Heaven Splitting, a small black blade suspended in the void. The blade's surface was pitch black, etched with 8 distinct cracks. But on closer inspection, they weren't cracks at all, just markings shaped like them. The blade emanated a terrifyingly sharp intent, enough to make one's soul tremble. The Heavenfall record, Su Zimo murmured, remembering the name. He hadn't had the chance to ask Lu Shang what it truly was. Around him, the primal Daos pulsed rhythmically, surging without end. Within his body, the eightfold heaven-splitting spun continuously. Su Zimo looked up. The city had completely vanished, and he now stood alone on a barren plain. Let's go back. He opened a portal to the God World's void, letting the Red Blade Bull Demon return first. Then he turned to leave. Ji Juning had remained still, waiting quietly. What did you? She started to speak when Su Zimo walked up to her but didn't know what to say. I didn't tell you, so don't ask, Su Zimo replied calmly. Oh, Ji Juning nodded, then asked, so what do we do next? Leave this place, Su Zimo said. He looked toward the distant Hell Sea. Above it, the evil clouds churned. Endless demonic energy gathered like a storm, all converging toward a single point. From the sheer magnitude of the spectacle, one could imagine how terrifying the being about to emerge must be. The fiery red Hell Sea boiled, reflecting its glow across the entire sky. Why leave now? Ji Juning asked, startled. She had worked with Su Zimo both to survive and to find the murderer who had slain her clan lord. If they left now, what was the point of everything they'd done? If we don't leave now, do you want to wait for the Abyssal Tyrant to revive? Su Zimo countered. Are you his match? Then how will I find my enemy? Ji Juning asked. You haven't even seen your enemy. How do you plan to find them? Su Zimo asked back. My Northern Hills Fox clan has its own secret arts, Ji Juning replied. The ones who killed my Northern Hills people are linked by karmic cause. Apart from our charm techniques, we Northern Hills also excel in the Tao of Karma. I've never heard of that, Su Zimo said with a small smile. It's a secret art. There's no need to publicize it, Ji Juning replied. My cultivation isn't high enough to directly divine the one tied to our cause. But if I see them and you kill them, I can use the death energy they release to trace who bears karmic ties to my clan. Su Zimo nodded slightly. The Tao of Karma was no trivial thing. At its core, it meddled with the secrets of heaven. Ordinary people could not use it lightly. It could shorten one's life, even bring death. Ji Juning's determination showed she cared nothing for her own safety if it meant finding her clan's murderer. I can only take you this far, Su Zimo said. The Abyssal Tyrant likely came for me. I've no intention of clashing with him right now. For you, Ji Juning frowned. You have no grudge with him. Could it be because you entered the demonic tower? Anyway, I'm leaving. Do as you will, Su Zimo said, unwilling to explain further. How will you leave? Once you enter this battleground, you can't just walk away, Ji Juning said again. Only by killing everyone else and being the last survivor can one leave. Su Zimo smiled faintly and looked toward the sky. You two have been watching for quite a while. Are you not going to show yourselves? A voice chuckled in reply. I prided myself on my concealment. How did young Master Su see through me? Ripples appeared in the void as a scholar in a Confucian robe and a child stepped out. There's no need to tell you that, Su Zimo said. In truth, Lu Shang had secretly told him he was being watched. But that didn't matter. Su Zimo knew the scholar could see through everything that happened here. After the White Emperor left, he had become this place's master. I want to leave this realm, Su Zimo said plainly. What of the Saint Sovereign beside you? The scholar asked. Su Zimo knew he meant the Red Blade Bull Demon, but he didn't answer. Instead, he said, either send me out, or I'll break this particle world myself. Your choice. The White Emperor's world is not so easily broken, the child snapped. But the scholar stopped him with a wave. I can send you out, but remember this, Su Zimo, he said. What is it? Su Zimo asked. We are not your eternal enemies. In this world, even enemies can become allies. What about the Abyssal Tyrant? Su Zimo asked. I cannot tell you. The scholar shook his head. With a wave of his hand, the entire world rippled. Before them, a massive vortex opened, sucking in everything around it. 30 seconds. Leave quickly, the scholar said. Coming? Su Zimo asked Ji Juning. She hesitated only for a second before nodding. Of the few remaining participants, she couldn't possibly stand alone. Without Su Zimo, she had no chance of survival. The two stepped into the vortex together. When their figures vanished and the vortex dissipated, the child frowned. The abyssal tyrant's rebirth was meant to kill him. Why let him go? Do you want to be someone else's dog forever? The scholar asked, turning to him. I only fear the White Emperor, the child said uneasily. Just trust the White Emperor, the scholar replied simply. We can't change the grand design, but we can still do what we can within it. When Su Zimo reappeared, he was already back at the White Emperor's mausoleum. At once, everyone's eyes turned toward him. You're out, Chu Feiyong asked, puzzled. Wasn't it still going on? I withdrew, Su Zimo said with a faint smile. So the Seven Gods Collegium breeds cowards. The abbot of the desolate temple sneered. Afraid before the fight even began. The Seven Gods Collegium really is declining, said the Chancellor of Martial Blade Collegium with a smirk. They all wanted to mock Su Zimo. After all, he had killed Heaven Mammoth and 7 kills from the Ghost God Collegium, making him the biggest threat. The Abyssal Tyrant has appeared, said Jiang Mozi, who had remained silent until now. The crowd turned their gaze toward him. The Hell Sea boiled over completely. Blood-red waves erupted violently as the endless sea of blood churned. Around it stood Wrathful Emperor, Grand Emperor Hidden Sky, and the Crimson Soaring Emperor, all walking on air. Let's stop fighting for now and see what this anomaly is, Grand Emperor Hidden Sky said first. None of them knew about the Abyssal Tyrant's awakening, so they didn't understand what was happening. Just some insignificant creature, Crimson Soaring Emperor scoffed. He drew the Crimson Soaring Emperor bow, knocked 7 arrows at once, and loosed them like the 7 stars chasing the sun, each arrow tearing through space toward the Blood Sea. Explode, he commanded. But there was no explosion. The Blood Sea remained eerily still, like a dead ocean. Crimson Soaring Emperor's expression changed. His link to the 7 arrows had vanished. A mere insect dares to attack this king? A massive hand suddenly reached out from the Blood Sea. Before Crimson Soaring Emperor could even react, the overwhelming pressure crushed him. He was caught midair, unable to resist. Save dash, he tried to speak, but before the word left his lips, the hand squeezed. He was annihilated instantly. A Grand Emperor killed as easily as that. The 2 remaining emperors froze in horror, cold sweat dripping down their backs. Run! Grand Emperor Hidden Sky shouted. The 2 fled in terror. Since you've come, you may as well serve as witnesses to my rebirth. The voice from the Blood Sea laughed grotesquely. 2 colossal hands reached out again, grabbing toward them, their faces twisted in dread. Buddha is the natural way, Grand Emperor Hidden Sky roared, golden clouds of Tao energy surging behind him. His true fate manifested, power flooding from his core. Wrathful Bodhisattva descends, Wrathful Emperor bellowed. A wrathful Bodhisattva manifested behind him as he merged with it, majestic and furious, divine light flooding the heavens. They knew they couldn't escape. Together, they launched an attack that could shatter the heavens. 2 deafening explosions erupted, and the scene went silent. After the explosion subsided, the figures of the little monk Grand Emperor, Hidden Sky and Wrathful Emperor vanished completely from the void, erased into nothingness. Only faint traces of the Blood Sea flickered across the air, leaving a residual shadow in the emptiness. They're dead. Inside the White Emperor's mausoleum, everyone gasped sharply, someone's trembling voice breaking the silence. Just like that? Dead. In the next moment, the projection hovering in the void shattered, and the stone steel of the White Emperor's mausoleum sealed itself tightly once again. Everyone's death meant that the battleground had come to an end. No one had passed. For a time, the entire mausoleum fell into utter silence. No one dared to mock Su Zimo anymore. They merely stared at one another in shock and disbelief. The hell sea roared and churned. Finally, waves surged skyward like blood-red dragons, splitting the heavens apart. From within the blood sea, a man clad in crimson robes rose slowly, sitting cross-legged as he ascended into the void. His long hair hung loosely over his shoulders. The sides were black, but the middle streak was stark white. His face was firm and sharp, his eyes deep and unfathomable, his nose high and straight, and his lips faintly tinged with purple. The instant he opened his eyes, the world seemed to turn upside down. The blood sea raged like a flood breaking its banks, its current piercing through the entire void. Abyssal tyrant, came the voice of Moonpluck Fairy from above him. The blood-robed man raised his head to look at her. The boundless pressure from his gaze alone made the void compress violently, as if it were about to crush Moonpluck Fairy into dust. "I'm just the messenger," she said quickly, producing a token from her sleeve. At the sight of the token, the suffocating pressure around her finally began to fade. She gasped for breath, beads of cold sweat dripping down her forehead. It was as though she had just walked out of the gates of hell. "Speak," said the blood-robed man indifferently. "They brought you back to life to kill someone," Moonpluck Fairy said as she gestured with her right hand. Spirit energy gathered in the void, condensing into the image of a man. If Suzimo had been there, he would have immediately recognized the face. It was his own portrait. "And then?" the blood-robed man asked after glancing at the image. "That's all," Moonpluck Fairy replied. "That's all." The blood-robed man gave a low chuckle. "You released me just to kill one man? Once he's dead, you'll be free," Moonpluck Fairy answered. "Is that your idea, or someone else's?" the man asked, his eyes narrowing. "Of course, it's from those above," she said, tossing the token toward him. "Deal." The blood-robed man caught the token lightly. The next instant, his figure disappeared into thin air. The crowd emerged from the White Emperor's mausoleum. That year's expedition had ended in total annihilation, something that took everyone by surprise. "Lord Su, did you perhaps know something beforehand? Is that why you came out early?" asked Chu Feiyong, who, as the event's overseer, spoke first. "No, not at all. I was just afraid, being a cowardly turtle," Suzimo said with a small smile. The few who had mocked him earlier stiffened at his words, embarrassment flashing across their faces. "This isn't the time for squabbling," the abbot of the desolate temple said coldly. "With a creature like that appearing in the battleground, none of us can stay uninvolved. Judging from what happened, even grand emperors were like ants before him. He must be a saint sovereign," agreed the monk from Primal Monastery, nodding gravely. "If we don't deal with him, we might not even be able to set foot in White Emperor Mountain. Patriarch Chu, your Chu heavenly clan has always been close to the White Emperor. Do you know what that thing was?" Everyone began to speak at once, pressing for answers. Chu Feiyong could only respond, "This matter is far too ancient. I'll have to ask our ancestor. Then we'll stay in White Emperor City for a few days and wait for an answer," several people said at once. Following Chu Feiyong back into the city, he arranged lodging for everyone. Once the others had left, Jiang Mozi approached Suzimo with a knowing smile. "Lord Su, if there was something you couldn't say earlier, could you tell me now? I promise to keep it confidential." "There's nothing I can't say," Suzimo replied. "After the White Emperor left, White Emperor Mountain has in fact been controlled by someone. The remnant of the White Emperor himself, a fragment of his divine form. We've suspected that for some time," Jiang Mozi nodded. "But we've never seen the one behind it. The abyssal tyrant that appeared this time was released by that fragment," Suzimo continued, shaking his head. "As for the reason, I don't know. But his strength is terrifying. Among Saint Sovereigns, he's one of the strongest. You'd best stay out of it." "Thank you for the warning," Jiang Mozi said with a nod. Now that he knew, he could at least form an idea of the situation. By the time they returned from the mausoleum, night had already fallen. Everyone knew that one must never go out at night in the ghost god heaven. so they all stayed quietly in their rooms. Su Zimo sat in silence, pondering the matter of the abyssal tyrant, but no matter how he turned it over in his mind, he couldn't find a clear answer. He had the unsettling feeling that an unseen hand was pulling the strings behind it all. The night passed without incident. When dawn broke and Su Zimo stepped out of his room, he was met with noise and commotion outside. Ji Juning is dead, came the message from Jiang Mozi. Su Zimo froze for a moment. Just the night before, Ji Juning had returned to White Emperor City safely with him. How could she have suddenly died overnight? He wasn't grieved, but he did find it strange. When he arrived at the courtyard where Ji Juning had stayed, the area had already been sealed off. Several major faction leaders were already gathered there. There was no sign of Ji Juning's body, only traces of blood on the ground. What happened? She was killed here in the Chu estate, Su Zimo asked as he stepped forward. No idea, Chu Feiyang said with a grave expression. Could it be that she left her room during the night? Leave her room? For what? She wouldn't be foolish enough to violate the rules of this world. The abbot of the desolate temple said coldly. If you ask me, someone's hunting the Northern Hills Fox clan, and doing it right under our noses. There are no clues. We should inform the Northern Hills themselves and let them handle it, someone suggested. I've already done so, Chu Feiyang replied. Patriarch Chu, did you ask about yesterday's events? Wu Daozi inquired. I did. Even our ancestor doesn't know what that creature is. Chu Feiyang shook his head. May I ask which ancestor you consulted? Wu Daozi pressed. What? Do you doubt me? Chu Feiyang retorted. Of course not. It's just that the matter of the White Emperor is so ancient that few would know anything about it, Wu Daozi said with a faint smile. If it were the mad ancestor, none of us would question it. The mad ancestor he spoke of was naturally Chu Kuangren, the legendary madman who had once been close friends with the White Emperor. The mad ancestor is in seclusion. I couldn't meet him, Chu Feiyang said curtly. Let's not quarrel. Someone nearby interjected to ease the tension with a laugh. In my opinion, we should re-enter the White Emperor's mausoleum and see what that abyssal tyrant's true goal is. How can we explore it again? The White Emperor's mausoleum has already closed. We'd have to perform another sacrifice, and even then, who would go? Chu Feiyang's series of sharp questions silenced everyone. In my opinion, we should leave White Emperor Mountain alone for now. Perhaps in a few years, that demon will depart on its own. Even so, said the abbot of the desolate temple grimly, our wrathful emperor was a once-in-a-generation genius. To die by that monster's hand, we cannot simply let it go. That's your concern, Chu Feiyang replied flatly. The Chu Heavenly Clan will not involve itself in this matter. The group exchanged heated words, but in the end, they could only disperse in frustration. Chancellor Jiang, are you leaving as well? Su Zimo asked, turning to Jiang Mozi. There's no reason to stay, Jiang Mozi said with a light smile. Though this White Emperor expedition was disappointing, no one else gained anything either, so I can live with that. What about you, Lord Su? What are your plans? I'm leaving too, might wander around, enjoy the scenery a bit, Su Zimo replied with a faint grin. If fate allows and we meet again, please visit me anytime at Seven Gods Collegium, Jiang Mozi said with a laugh. After parting ways with Jiang Mozi, Su Zimo found Chu Feiyang and said with a polite smile, Patriarch Chu, would you allow me to see Miss Ji's body? When we arrived, the body was already gone, Chu Feiyang replied. Only this patch of blood remains. I see. Then I won't trouble you, Su Zimo said with a nod. He took a few steps away, then stopped and added casually, and what about the corpse of the Northern Hills Patriarch? Is it still here? Chu Feiyang hesitated for a moment before answering. It's still here, but it must be returned to the Northern Hills Fox clan. I'm afraid it wouldn't be appropriate for you to see it. Su Zimo didn't insist. He simply turned and walked away, though his expression had grown cold. I might not be certain about the Northern Hills Patriarch's death, Su Zimo thought, But Ji Juning's death is definitely tied to the Chu heavenly clan. At that moment, far away in the lands of northern hills, several massive statues of white foxes stood tall here, their stone eyes gazing toward the northwest, where the northern hills star shimmered in the distance. A layer of fog shrouded the high plateau. Strangely, though it was broad daylight, northern hills was forever cloaked in night. No matter the wind or rain, the stars always glimmered above. Beneath the slope knelt countless foxes. At the front stood one whose body was strong and majestic, its fur thick and lustrous, and its eyes a deep azure blue, like the color of the sky itself. Its nose was damp, glistening faintly under the starlight. "Elder, another message has come from the Chu heavenly clan," said one of the foxes below, its voice trembling. "Sister Ji is dead as well." The lead fox said nothing, but the violent aura rolling from its body made it clear how furious it was. The gathered foxes dared not utter another word. They knelt in silence for an entire day before the great stone doors at the top of the slope finally opened. The lead fox rose first, stumbling slightly as it hurried up the slope and into the inner mountain. Inside, clouds and mist swirled like a dream. Looking upward, the stars seemed close enough to touch. Their light poured down, forming a glowing pentagram on the ground. Ahead stood countless statues of white foxes, each lifelike, carved from stone, lined up in solemn rows. This was the Fox clan's forbidden lands. Even as a clan elder, he had never been permitted to enter before. Before he could take in much of his surroundings, an ancient voice echoed softly from the mist. "Yunfei, you've come. Ancestor." Ji Yunfei turned and immediately dropped to his knees. Seeing the figure before him, his face filled with both awe and dread. He had known this matter would alarm the ancestors, but he never imagined it would awaken this one, the oldest of all the Northern Hills patriarchs. The old man before him was one of Northern Hills' founders, revered by every fox of the clan. Without him, Northern Hills as it was today might never have existed. "Rise," said the ancient voice. "I dare not," Ji Yunfei replied, pressing his forehead to the ground. "I am a dying man, what is there to fear?" The old voice chuckled softly. "I already know of Northern Hills' calamity. Please, ancestor, tell me," Ji Yunfei said earnestly. "The Chu patriarch's daughter was born with a hidden illness," the voice said slowly. "To cure her, they required the spirit of a white fox as the main ingredient. The deaths of those two were because of this. So it was the Chu heavenly clan," Ji Yunfei said coldly, his fists clenching. "Ancestor, what should we do? Shall we demand an explanation from them, or declare war directly?" He waited, but there was no reply. When he finally raised his head, he saw that the ancestor sat peacefully, a faint smile on his face, already lifeless. "Dead," Ji Yunfei whispered, his voice trembling. The ancestor knew his life was near its end. Came another voice from within the mist. He used the last of his vitality to break the laws of fate and uncover the truth. "The heavens have taken his years. Let him rest now. He was born Northern Hills, and dies Northern Hills. Mourn him, and honor his sacrifice. The ancestor's righteousness shall never be forgotten," Ji Yunfei said, bowing deeply 3 times before rising. Then he declared solemnly, "The deaths of Northern Hills' kin will not be in vain." With that, he turned and walked out of the forbidden ground, each step firm and deliberate. Morning dawned over White Emperor City as usual. The leaders of the great sects were preparing to depart. Having lost their most talented disciples in the expedition, none were in good spirits. At the entrance of the Chu estate, Chu Feiyang stood to see them off. "Brother Chu, until next time. Chancellor Wu, you must visit Primal Monastery sometime." Everyone exchanged farewells. But then, as if sensing something, they all looked up toward the heavens. The once calm sky began to churn violently. In the swirling storm clouds, the enormous phantom of a white fox appeared, its presence casting a shadow over the entire city. "The Northern Hills Fox clan has come," someone whispered. The next moment, Countless fox cries echoed from the sky, piercing, mournful, and thunderous. Billions of white foxes appeared among the clouds, filling the heavens with their howls. "It's been a long time, Patriarch Yunfei," Chu Feiyang called out first, forcing a smile. "Good to see you again." "Patriarch Chu," Ji Yunfei's voice boomed like thunder. "You truly are a man whose heart cannot be known by his face. Your daughter's illness, and you dare to cure it by sacrificing the lives of my white fox kin." His words left the crowd in shock. Chu Feiyang's face turned pale. "Today, the Northern Hills Fox clan declares war upon the Chu Heavenly clan, until death, without end." Within the Chu estate, in a quiet courtyard, a little girl sat on a swing strung between two trees, giggling with delight. Su Zimo leaned casually against one of the trees, watching her. "Big brother, where did you come from?" the girl asked. "A very far-away place," Su Zimo replied. "When will you leave?" she asked again, her voice innocent and curious. "Soon," Su Zimo said, glancing up at the dark, cloud-choked sky with a faint smile. "Then when you go, will there be no one left to play with me?" The little girl looked up at him, her innocent eyes wide. "There are so many people in the Chu Heavenly clan," Su Zimo smiled. "Surely someone will play with you." "They don't dare," she said softly. "Father won't let anyone come near me." "When did your illness begin?" Su Zimo asked, watching her quietly. "I've had it since I was little, but a few days ago, Father got me a special medicine. After I drank it, I started feeling much better," she answered. Su Zimo nodded but said nothing more. Above them, the cries of the northern foxes grew sharper and shriller. Billions filled the sky, blotting out the heavens. "Good," Su Zimo murmured under his breath. "The more chaos, the better." At the gates of the Chu estate, Chu Feiyang's expression tightened. Then, forcing a smile, he said, "Ancestor Yunfei, there must be some misunderstanding. The deaths of the two Northern Hills clansmen grieve us deeply, but they were not caused by us." "Misunderstanding," Ji Yunfei said coolly. "Then bring out your daughter. We have ways to learn the truth. My daughter has suffered from illness since childhood. It is well known she cannot see guests. Why force what is impossible?" Chu Feiyang replied evenly, his smile fading. "Can't see people or don't dare to show her?" Ji Yunfei snorted. "Enough talk. The deaths of the Fox clan will not go unpunished." At his command, countless Northern Hills foxes dove down from the sky, attacking in unison. They surrounded the entire Chu estate. Ji Yunfei's voice rang out across the heavens. "The Northern Hills Fox clan declares war only on the Chu Heavenly clan. All others, stay clear. You will not be harmed." "Ancestor Yunfei, must you push things this far?" Chu Feiyang asked, his eyes narrowing. "It was your family that caused this," Ji Yunfei said coldly. "Why pretend otherwise?" As the Fox army surged forward, a series of explosions thundered from within the Chu estate. "Who dares trespass in my Chu Heavenly clan?" a furious voice roared. Powerful auras erupted as several figures shot into the air, their presence shaking the heavens. "It's the 6 great protectors of the Chu Heavenly clan," someone outside murmured. "Patriarch Chu, we won't get involved in this," Jiang Mozi said with a chuckle, backing away from the gates. The other sect leaders quickly followed suit. To them, this was just one beast devouring another, a spectacle best watched from afar. Whoever interfered now would only end up bloodied. Soon, the Northern Hills foxes clashed fiercely with the Chu Heavenly clan's forces. The entire estate became a battlefield. Buildings crumbled, cries and explosions filled the air. Amid the chaos, Chu Feiyang looked up at Ji Yunfei. "What do you really want?" "The Northern Hills Fox clan doesn't have the strength to destroy the Chu Heavenly clan." "Let's find out," Ji Yunfei answered coldly. Just then, a massive hand appeared out of thin air, descending from the heavens. It slammed directly down on Ji Yunfei's position. He couldn't dodge, he was struck hard and sent crashing from the sky. "In my Chu Heavenly clan's presence, don't stand so high," a deep male voice said calmly. The fall will only hurt worse. Ji Yunfei staggered to his feet, his eyes searching the area. From within the Chu estate walked a man with the stride of a dragon and the strength of a tiger, dressed in a bright crimson robe. His silver hair was tied high on his head. Though his years showed, his spirit burned fiercely, his face glowing with vitality. Power pulsed from his body like a storm barely contained. He's a sovereign lord, someone whispered in awe. The final stage before stepping into the Saint Sovereign stage, one step short of godhood itself. It's Chu Feixiong, another voice gasped. The 160th patriarch of the Chu heavenly clan, and the one hailed as the greatest in its history. Indeed, the Chu heavenly clan's golden age was built by his hands. Old patriarch, it's been a long time, came a voice from above, carrying both familiarity and mockery. Chu Feixiong's gaze lifted sharply toward the sky. There, an old man rode upon a celestial fox. The fox's fur was pure as snow, its twin wings glimmering with divine light, and its eyes shone a deep ocean blue. The man atop it wore flowing immortal robes. His white beard and hair streamed in the wind, his presence calm yet boundless. His aura was both human and divine, impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. Ji Shang, Chu Feixiong said evenly, locking eyes with him. You Chu heavenly clan people? Ji Shang said from above with a cold smile. The more time passes, the more disgraceful you become. This matter was indeed a mistake of my Chu heavenly clan, Chu Feixiong said after a pause. Name your condition. No condition, Ji Yunfei interjected. Only blood for blood. Then there's nothing more to discuss, Chu Feixiong said calmly. War. That single word shook the heavens. Power erupted from his body, surging straight into the void. Flames roared to life around him. He rose into the sky, wielding a long sword engraved with fiery runes, and charged toward Ji Shang. The celestial fox let out a long, piercing cry that tore through the heavens. Ji Shang spread his arms, releasing divine feathers that glowed with the power of both fire and ice. When the two clashed, the entire sky spanning billions of miles locked down, half frozen in crystalline ice, half blazing in searing fire. Everyone else was forced to retreat far from this terrible battlefield. I'm leaving now, Su Zimo said with a smile, standing up in the quiet courtyard. Big brother, are you really going? The little girl asked quickly. Now that I know the truth, of course I must, Su Zimo said lightly. The waters aren't muddy enough yet. I'll go stir them up a bit more. When will you come back? She asked again. I won't, he said, waving his hand. Before leaving, he plucked a leaf from the tree of life and handed it to her. It can't cure your illness, but it will keep you safe for 100 years. After leaving the courtyard, his divine sense spread across the entire Chu estate. Feeling something, his eyes turned toward the deepest part of the compound, and his figure vanished. Thunder Serpent Valley, the Chu heavenly clan's forbidden ground. According to Chu heavenly clan records, a thunder serpent of the Grand Emperor realm resided there, and that serpent was merely the guardian beast. If a Grand Emperor-level creature served only as protector, one could imagine how terrifying the being it guarded must be. For generations, only the patriarch himself had the right to enter. No one else ever had. When Su Zimo reappeared, he stood at the edge of the Thunder Serpent Valley. My senses were right. It's here, he murmured, walking forward. But as he approached, 3 bronze figures stepped in front of him, each holding a staff inscribed with sacred sigils. This is forbidden ground, one intoned. Turn back. I wish to meet Madman Chu, Su Zimo said directly. Leave. The bronze guardian didn't show the slightest courtesy and refused flatly. That's not up to you, Su Zimo replied. His palms moved like the wind, and the pressure of his strikes surged forward. The bronze men had no time to resist. One palm strike shattered them all into pieces. Stepping over their broken remains, Su Zimo walked into Thunder God Python Valley. From above, the valley truly resembled a colossal serpent coiled and winding through the mountains. Inside, lightning flashed everywhere. Bolts of thunder crashed down the cliffs and crawled along the jagged rock walls. The moment he entered, Suzimo could feel countless threads of lightning staring back at him, as though a pair of eyes hidden within the storm were watching his every move. "Where is Madman Chu?" Suzimo shouted. His voice carried immense spirit power, reverberating through the vast, empty sky, shaking the heavens themselves. To trespass into the Chu heavenly clan's forbidden ground, what crime should that be? A thunderous, violent voice boomed from the void. The might of a grand emperor shook the world. Lightning speared through the clouds above, merging with the storm in a roaring symphony. "Hiding and refusing to show yourself?" Suzimo asked. "Junior, wherever you came from, return there," the booming voice said evenly. "I've come regarding the matter of the abyssal tyrant," Suzimo declared. "I must see Madman Chu." "Stubborn fool," the thunderous voice snarled. Lightning exploded in the sky, and a vast wave of bestial power swept outward. From the void emerged a massive thunder python, its body as thick as mountains, coiling high enough to pierce the heavens. Its black-violet scales shimmered with arcs of crackling electricity, and each flick of its tail shook the earth. It hissed furiously, its forked tongue darting out as venom dripped from its fangs. The monstrous body lunged toward Suzimo, the sound of its movement splitting the air apart. Suzimo raised his blade to block. The python's enormous jaws clamped down on the weapon's edge. "You're going to break your own teeth," Suzimo said coldly. He twisted Shadow Tyrant, unleashing billions of arcs of blade energy that exploded outward, splitting the serpent's mouth open. In a flash, Suzimo thrust the weapon into the python's left eye. The creature howled in agony, its body writhing wildly. Rocks shattered and tumbled. The entire valley shook as if it might collapse. Suzimo didn't retreat an inch. The energy swirling inside him erupted like a storm, the phantom of a towering giant forming behind him. With a powerful motion, he seized the python's body, lifted it, and threw it over his shoulder. "Down!" he roared. The colossal serpent slammed against the mountainside with an earth-shaking crash, stones raining from above. "Thunder might!" the python screamed. The power it wielded was naturally that of lightning. Thunderclouds gathered overhead, forming a vast storm. Bolts of divine punishment rained down like a torrential flood. Suzimo chuckled. "The primal Tao of lightning." As he spoke, the storm above him intensified, far beyond the level of mere elemental comprehension. The primal Tao? The thunder python's voice trembled with disbelief, almost biting its own tongue in shock. "Saint's sovereign realm? No, wait, you carry the aura of a grand emperor. How is that possible? In this world, as long as one dares to dream what's truly impossible." Suzimo answered calmly. The lightning primal Tao burst forth. In an instant, the higher power of primal Tao obliterated the python's lesser mastery of lightning. Everything within the valley was consumed. The roar of destruction echoed endlessly, and a scorched black mist began to rise from the ruins. Suzimo sniffed the air and smiled. "Roasted python. Smells pretty good." Dragging Shadow Tyrant along the ground, he approached step by step. The python's massive body was charred and smoking, twitching weakly, barely clinging to life. When Suzimo reached it, he raised his blade high and brought it down in a single decisive strike. The blow split the earth apart, a great chasm tearing open beneath his feet as dust and debris filled the air. But Suzimo immediately sensed that the serpent was no longer there. He looked toward the depths of the valley, just moments before his blade struck. A large hand had reached out from the darkness and pulled the thunder python away. From the shadows emerged a man in a black robe standing beside the injured python. At the sight of him, only one word formed in Suzimo's mind: madness. Pure, absolute madness. Not arrogance, not pride, but the kind of wild, unrestrained madness that defied heaven itself. The man's robe was pitch black, not a trace of color upon it. His long hair flowed freely in the wind, and his eyes, also black, were sharp and deep. His face was finely chiseled, his features angular and striking. He was tall, nearly 2 meters, and around his neck hung a jade-white pendant. The man stood silently watching Suzimo. After a long silence, he finally spoke. I already know about the Abyssal Tyrant. He is coming to White Emperor City, Suzimo said. You're not curious who I am? The black-robed man asked instead. Madman Chu. Who else could it be? Suzimo replied. How do you know the Abyssal Tyrant will come to White Emperor City? Madman Chu asked. Because I'm in White Emperor City, Suzimo answered with a faint smile. Then the Abyssal Tyrant comes for you, Madman Chu realized instantly. Suzimo smiled but didn't reply. What's your purpose then? You want to join forces with me to kill him? Madman Chu asked. No alliance, Suzimo said. I'm only here to tell you that the Abyssal Tyrant will descend upon White Emperor City. What happens after that has nothing to do with me. With that, he turned to leave. If I capture you and offer you to the Abyssal Tyrant, wouldn't that solve everything? Madman Chu said suddenly. If I came here to tell you this, Suzimo replied, then I clearly don't fear you. Truth is, I don't fear the Abyssal Tyrant either. I just don't want to face him yet. As Suzimo walked away, Madman Chu's already dark eyes grew even deeper. He waved his hand, and lightning crackled through the air. The Thunder Python's shattered body instantly healed and reformed. Master, why? The Python asked, confusion and resentment burning in its gaze. This wasn't the behavior it knew from Madman Chu. Come with me, Madman Chu said simply, without explaining. As Madman Chu's voice faded, the Thunder God Python vanished with him from the Valley of Lightning. Suzimo left the Chu Heavenly Clan's forbidden grounds and summoned the Red Blade Bull Demon. My lord, the Bull Demon greeted respectfully. Go assist the Northern Hills Fox Clan in their battle against the Chu Heavenly Clan, Suzimo ordered. But remember, do not destroy them. Just force Madman Chu to show himself. Understood, the Bull Demon replied. With a thunderous leap, his colossal figure soared into the sky and landed at the Chu Heavenly Clan's main gates. The battle raging there came to an abrupt halt as everyone turned in shock at the sudden arrival. The Red Blade Bull Demon roared, a deafening, bestial cry. His massive body radiated a suffocating pressure that swept through the entire city. With a single palm strike, he sent both Ji Shang and Chu Feixiong, who had been fighting fiercely, flying backward. Saint Sovereign, Chu Feixiong's expression darkened in dread. Today, the Chu Heavenly Clan will be destroyed, Red Blade Bull Demon bellowed. His voice shattered the air itself, and half of White Emperor City collapsed under the weight of his power. No one dared approach within 100 miles. Quick, go summon the ancestor. Call for the first ancestor, Chu Feixiong shouted. Once a Saint Sovereign entered the battlefield, everything changed. A Saint Sovereign stood among the transcendent beings of the Ghost God Heaven, the peak of all cultivation realms. Only a Saint Sovereign could face another Saint Sovereign. Anyone else, no matter how many, were nothing more than ants courting death. The Chu Heavenly Clan's disciples ran frantically toward the forbidden grounds. The Bull Demon did not stop them. His purpose was simply to draw Madman Chu out. High above the clouds outside White Emperor City, Madman Chu suddenly halted. The Chu Heavenly Clan is calling for help, he said, his brow furrowed. Weren't we going to negotiate with the Abyssal Tyrant? The Thunder God Python asked. Why don't we find him first and let the Chu Heavenly Clan hold out a while longer? With a Saint Sovereign involved, they won't last long. If I don't go, the Chu Heavenly Clan will be annihilated, Madman Chu said coldly. What a clever move, he muttered. Using the Chu Heavenly Clan to tie my hands. So what do we do? The Thunder God Python asked. Go back, Madman Chu said. I wanted to negotiate with the Abyssal Tyrant to preserve the Chu Heavenly Clan. If the family is destroyed, what meaning would those talks have? Then why not let me protect the Chu Heavenly Clan while you meet the Abyssal Tyrant? The Python suggested. You You lack the qualification to even fart before a saint's sovereign, Madman Chu said bluntly. So we just let him get away with it? The Thunder God Python said unwillingly. This is an open and righteous scheme, one impossible to avoid, Madman Chu said with a sigh. Let's just hope the Abyssal Tyrant's desire to kill isn't too strong. He paused, shaking his head slightly. He once befriended the White Emperor. Having lived through the Abyssal Tyrant's era, he knows all too well what kind of being that is. Standing atop the Thunder God Python's back, Madman Chu pierced through the clouds, heading straight toward White Emperor City. Inside the city, the Red Blade Bull Demon was unstoppable. No one could last a single exchange against him. Half of the Chu heavenly clan lay in ruins. When Madman Chu arrived and saw the devastation, his expression shifted between fury and restraint. He raised his hand, unleashing a palm strike so powerful it nearly collapsed half the sky. The blow landed squarely on Red Blade Bull Demon's back, but the creature merely exhaled twin plumes of white steam from his nostrils and slowly turned his massive head. With your strength as a saint's sovereign, bullying these weaklings shows little of a saint's grace, Madman Chu said, frowning at the desolation around him. This old bull doesn't care for grace, Red Blade Bull Demon snorted. I'm just following orders. Then today, allow me to test your strength, Madman Chu replied. The white jade pendant at his neck emitted a radiant glow. From that light he slowly drew a long sword. Mad Dao sword, someone whispered from afar. Ranked 20th among the myriad god weapons. It is said that during the White Emperor's war against the heavens, when godly extinction descended, it was this very sword that severed the heavenly decree, earning it the name Mad Dao. The surrounding sect masters' eyes lit up. Some began murmuring about the blade's origin. Is that so? Another voice questioned. I heard it was once called Sever Dao, but was renamed Mad Dao because of Madman Chu's reckless, death-defying style. Speculation spread quickly, but none of that mattered now. Madman Chu drew the sword, and the world itself seemed to tremble. The aura around him transformed, wild, explosive, unstoppable. The sharpness of his sword intent soared into the heavens, shredding the sky itself. His mastery was over the primal Tao of the sword, famed for its unparalleled sharpness. Even before he swung, the void fractured like brittle glass. The bull demon roared, spewing a storm of molten fire from his mouth. The heat melted everything in its path. Madman Chu did not flinch. He stomped once, cracking the ground for millions of miles, and charged forward. A madman never retreats. The Mad Dao sword lived up to its name, relentless and unyielding. His sword light cleaved through the blue sky, splitting the flames apart. Madman Chu lunged through the fiery blaze, sparks scattering as lightning crackled around him. With one decisive strike, the Mad Dao sword crashed against Red Blade Bull Demon's massive horn. You think you can sever my horn? Red Blade Bull Demon roared. A surge of blazing fire coursed from his horn into the sword, the violent force blasting Madman Chu backward. All heaven demon subjugation. Even as he flew through the air, Madman Chu hurled the Mad Dao sword. The blade shimmered in the sky, vibrating with divine resonance. In the next instant, it split into countless rays of sword energy. The sword lights merged into a vast net descending from above, ensnaring Red Blade Bull Demon's enormous body. The beast thrashed violently, but the net was indestructible. He could not break free. Reversal of creation. Inversion of heaven and earth. Madman Chu roared, waving his hand. The entire sky seemed to flip upside down. Heaven and earth turned over, the sun and moon reversed. In the blink of an eye, Red Blade Bull Demon found himself suspended upside down in midair. The sword net tightened, binding him completely. One sword to dominate creation for all eternity, Madman Chu whispered. He held the Mad Dao sword upright, channeling a streak of radiant light from the hilt to the tip. The light condensed into a deadly point of brilliance. Saint sovereigns may possess immortal souls, undying and eternal. Yet even immortals can be wounded. This sword shall serve as your lesson. The Mad Dao sword flew from his hand, streaking toward Red Blade Bull Demon's brow. As it came, the world froze. Time itself seemed to stop. The Bull Demon could not move. Heaven and earth converged upon the sword's tip. The blade pierced directly into his forehead. Madman Chu's gaze fixed on it, until, suddenly, thick infernal energy erupted from Red Blade Bull Demon's body. A massive demonic visage emerged, opening its gaping maw and swallowing the Mad Dao sword whole. Lightning gathered again at Red Blade Bull Demon's horns, tearing apart the sword net that bound him. Seeing this scene, Madman Chu's gaze hardened. Sword intent surged from his right hand, and with a gesture of summoning, the demonic head roared as the Mad Dao sword pierced through it and flew back into Madman Chu's grasp. His expression grew darker. He understood that if they continued this battle, even if White Emperor City were completely destroyed, neither side would emerge victorious. "How about we stop here?" Madman Chu spoke first. "Why stop?" The Red Blade Bull Demon replied unhappily. "Fight as you wish. Holding back only dulls the edge of your blade." "Very well," Madman Chu chuckled. "It has been millions of years since I've fought in earnest. To fight you once, why not?" He turned toward Chu Feixiong and ordered, "Lead all members of the Chu Heavenly Clan and retreat 100 million miles. No one is to return until the battle is over." The Mad Dao sword in his hand trembled faintly, as if eager for combat. Both of their saintly auras exploded skyward at once, tearing apart half the heavens as they opposed one another. Just as the clash was about to erupt, both suddenly turned their heads northward. There, the heavens were being devoured by waves of crimson light. The red hue spread rapidly, its destination, White Emperor City. "So, it's come after all," Madman Chu murmured. "Take everyone and leave," he shouted at Chu Feixiong. Then, stepping into the air alone, he faced the boundless scarlet sky. "I wonder what business the Abyssal Tyrant has in White Emperor City?" "Oh, it's you, the White Emperor's little follower." A booming voice laughed from within the bloody firmament. In an instant, the crimson sky had consumed the entire city, spreading at a terrifying speed. Amid the blood-soaked heavens, all power converged on a single figure. He wore blood-red robes, with an endless sea of blood rolling behind him. A scarlet cloak fluttered in the wind. "The past is best left unspoken," Madman Chu said evenly. "Why has the Abyssal Tyrant come here?" "I'm looking for someone," the Abyssal Tyrant said with a smile. "Then by all means search. But can you spare the people of my Chu Heavenly Clan?" Madman Chu asked. "Little follower," the Abyssal Tyrant sneered. "Since when do I need your permission to act? Do you think this is still the day of the Heavenly War, when the White Emperor reigns supreme?" "In that case," Madman Chu said coldly, "I cannot allow you to pass through me." "Oh, two Saint Sovereigns." The Abyssal Tyrant chuckled as his gaze swept between Madman Chu and Red Blade Bull Demon. "Interesting. Since my resurrection, this is the first time I'll stretch my limbs." Madman Chu looked to Red Blade Bull Demon and smiled. "Tell your master. Let's join forces. Then let's join forces and fight to our heart's content." Red Blade Bull Demon laughed heartily. Madman Chu raised his sword, unleashing a torrent of sword intent that tore through the sky as he charged toward the Abyssal Tyrant. At the same time, Red Blade Bull Demon lowered his horns and thundered forward. The Abyssal Tyrant's expression remained calm. Watching them approach, he spread his hands. Streams of blood surged within his palms. The crimson energy gathered, swirling into two blood-colored vortexes the size of planets. As the two attackers neared, the vortexes expanded and swallowed them whole. The Abyssal Tyrant's laughter echoed through the heavens as the whirlpools spun violently, distorting the void itself. His mad laughter shook the sky. A single slash to judge all sin, eternal in an instant. A sharp voice rang out, and with it, sword intent burst forth. The whirlpools shattered instantly. The roaring sword light sliced directly at the Abyssal Tyrant's neck. Yet his neck flowed like liquid blood. No matter how sharp the sword, it could not harm him. It was like striking at a waterfall impossible to sever. That's the blood demon God King physique, murmured Suzimo as he watched from afar. This divine body was one of the 10 God King physiques. Such a body could not be harmed by any physical means. Only attacks aimed directly at the soul could wound him. That's going to be troublesome, Suzimo said quietly. Even Madman Chu hesitated for a moment in the sky. How the hell did you obtain that physique? He remembered clearly, when the White Emperor sealed the Abyssal Tyrant ages ago, the latter did not possess such a body. You think I'd be foolish enough to tell you? The Abyssal Tyrant sneered. With a flick of his hand, the boundless sea of blood surged again. From within the tides, billions of skeletons clawed their way up, only to be immediately drowned once more. Their anguished wails filled the air as blood and bone boiled together into the ocean of crimson. Wherever the blood sea passed, even the void itself was devoured. Everything dissolved into nothingness. The bull demon roared defiantly. Showing no fear, he waded straight into the sea of blood, his massive body shrouded in demonic energy. All world's demon lord. As rolling infernal energy swept across the sky, Red Blade Bull Demon's body underwent a startling transformation. His once coarse fur turned metallic, his black hide streaked with glowing lines of molten fire. The horns atop his head grew several inches longer, his frame denser and more imposing. Each step he took made the heavens tremble without any visible exertion, sheer force radiating from his being. He marched toward the Abyssal Tyrant, his thunderous footsteps echoing through the world, drowning out every other sound. The Abyssal Tyrant frowned slightly. Blood continued to swirl in his hands, but when the crimson waves struck Red Blade Bull Demon, they had no effect at all. The blood sea could dissolve anything but Red Blade Bull Demon's flesh. The Abyssal Tyrant's brow furrowed deeper. He turned toward Madman Chu, who now stood motionless with his eyes closed, holding his sword, as though gathering immense power. I'll deal with you first, the Abyssal Tyrant said coldly. Then him. High heaven blood sacrifice. He raised a hand, and his arm tore itself from his body. Thick, endless streams of blood gushed forth, cascading down like crimson rivers. The sight alone was enough to shake the heavens. Within that severed arm, lightning of the 9 heavens surged, and heavenly laws gathered with overwhelming force. My lord, he's performing a blood sacrifice. Paimon frowned beside Suzimo. This Abyssal Tyrant is stronger than he looks, Suzimo replied with a nod. Does my lord know how the realms of the Saint Sovereign are divided? Paimon asked. No. Tell me, Suzimo said. Though he was still far from reaching that level, one day he would have to face it. The Saint Sovereign realm, like the Grand Emperor realm, is also divided into 5 stages, Paimon explained. They are as follows: Supreme Giant, Chaos Primordial, Eternal Overlord, Creation God, and Sage Monarch. And which stage is the Abyssal Tyrant in? Suzimo asked. Judging by his aura, his unity of spirit and flesh, he's likely a Chaos Primordial, Paimon replied. Old Bull's the same, also a Chaos Primordial. But as for Madman Chu, you can't see through him? Suzimo asked, surprised. At first, I sensed his realm was merely that of a supreme giant, Paimon said with a frown. But now, as he gathers his strength, his power is climbing in a way that defies all logic. I actually sensed a trace of Eternal Overlord aura on him just now. Well, that's interesting, Suzimo mused. Tell me, who do you think sent this Abyssal Tyrant? I can't say for certain who sent him, Paimon replied. But judging from his current state, he's definitely not at his peak. Anyone capable of fighting the White Emperor must have been at least at an Eternal Overlord in his prime. Now he's only a Chaos Primordial, he's just recently been revived. Over time, his strength will gradually return to its peak. If my lord intends to slay him, now would be the perfect opportunity. No, Suzimo shook his head. I don't want you all to take action. Why not? Paimon asked, puzzled. It's not the Abyssal Tyrant I fear, Suzimo said calmly, but the one behind him who is after me. If you all strike and kill him, it will expose the full extent of my strength. Preserving power is what matters most. The reason I stayed in White Emperor City was to test the Abyssal Tyrant's abilities. Now that I've seen them, there's no need to linger. He stepped out into the air, pulling out a vast map of the ghost god heaven and studying the routes. To the demi-ghost region, then? Paimon asked. Yes. Su Zimo nodded. I gave Lu Sheng my word. It's time to see what's there. And what about White Emperor Mountain? Paimon asked again. We still need to find the wood god Jumong's legacy. Without the White Emperor's traceless compass, how will we reach it? Let Madman Chu and Red Blade keep the Abyssal Tyrant occupied, Su Zimo said. We'll take this chance to retrieve it. While the others were locked in battle, he circled around the battlefield and sped toward White Emperor Mountain. Drawing the Abyssal Tyrant to White Emperor City had served two purposes, not only to gauge his strength but also to have Madman Chu and Red Blade Bull Demon hold him off, buying Su Zimo more time. His speed was astonishing. With just a few spatial strides, he reached White Emperor Mountain. Previously, everyone had been stopped at the White Emperor's mausoleum and the battlefield beyond it. But now, when Su Zimo returned, the barriers were gone. Amid the mist, he could glimpse only a corner of the mountain. Yet that alone was enough to awe the heart. White Emperor Mountain rose so high that it joined with the heavens themselves. This wasn't an exaggeration or poetic metaphor. It truly connected with the sky. Its summit seemed to pierce through the firmament. If one could climb to its peak, one might stand at the edge of heaven itself. Originally, a powerful barrier surrounded the mountain, but after the Abyssal Tyrant's emergence, it had been shattered. Will you come out and meet me? Su Zimo called aloud. His voice echoed across the vast mountain range, startling the birds from the forests and rippling through the void. Master Su returns again. What is your intent this time? A scholar in a Confucian robe appeared with a young boy beside him, smiling politely. I seek an item, the traceless compass, Su Zimo said. I've already told you, the scholar replied. If you accept the White Emperor's will, you may inherit all his legacies. I'll ask one last time, Su Zimo said. Will you hand it over or not? The scholar simply smiled and shook his head. Take him, Su Zimo ordered with a wave of his hand. Unwilling to waste more words, Paimon's massive palm tore through the void, giving neither the scholar nor the boy a chance to react. Both were instantly suppressed on the spot. The scholar's expression flickered slightly. Then he said, Young Master Su truly has remarkable means to have two Saint Sovereigns as his protectors. Su Zimo didn't answer. He merely watched the man in silence. But don't underestimate me, the scholar said, his smile fading. A dazzling radiance burst from his body, pure and refined, illuminating the sky. In an instant, his form dissolved into a shadow, from which an even greater aura erupted. It shone across the 9 heavens. Though his face could not be seen clearly, his flowing white hair was unmistakable. This scholar was the White Emperor's avatar, a body created outside himself, yet still one with him. The shadows tore free from Paimon's suppression, seizing the boy and fleeing toward the horizon. He knew well he couldn't afford to fight. After all, he was only a projection, not the true Saint Sovereign himself. Just then, black lotus petals began to fall like rain from the heavens. Each lotus shimmered with demonic energy, emanating dark miasma as they drifted through the air. A moment later, a suffocating killing aura filled the sky as a gigantic 7-faced demon lotus bloomed before the scholar, blocking his path. The road to cultivation is but a bitter ferry, said Seven-Face, plucking a lotus from the air with a faint smile. Fellow Taoist, you should take your time. A third Saint Sovereign? The scholar muttered, halting his escape, his tone grave. Paimon also stepped through the void, blocking him from behind. Who exactly are you? The scholar asked, his voice trembling slightly as he turned towards Su Zimo. This inheritance, Su Zimo said, ignoring his question. I'll find it myself. Behind him, a vast blue planet appeared, his god world manifesting. Under the combined suppression of Paimon and Sevenface, the scholar couldn't move a muscle. He was forcibly sealed within the god world. Suzumo's gaze swept across White Emperor Mountain. Finally, he lifted his head toward the summit. Stepping onto the air, he ascended toward the peak. He didn't know how long he climbed, only that the air grew thinner, and clouds began to swirl around him. The sky above was a pure, piercing blue, like it had just been washed clean by rain. At last, Suzumo reached the edge of the firmament. He had long wondered what lay beyond the sky. Was it another world beyond the 9 heavens, another planet? Or was there a world of gods above the heavens? But upon truly entering the realm above White Emperor Mountain and touching the clouds, he realized that the sky was far higher than he had imagined. Above the sky was still the sky, distant yet near, endless yet within reach. It stretched beyond sight. It gave him the illusion that he was within the mountain, yet could never truly see the mountain's peak, breadth, or what lay beyond it. Walking atop the clouds, Suzumo arrived at the summit of White Emperor Mountain. The mountaintop was barren, no trees, no jagged rocks. Only a chessboard and the stone statue of a man. The man sat beside the board. Though it was a traditional black and white chessboard, it bore only black pieces, no white ones. On the opposite side of the board, suspended in the air, 4 large characters shimmered faintly. "Please enter the trap." Suzumo smiled faintly. He was about to take a seat before the board, but Paimon stopped him. "My lord, perhaps I should test it first?" "No need," Suzumo replied with a grin. "I rather wish to meet this White Emperor myself." He sat down on the stone bench. The instant he did, the very laws surrounding White Emperor Mountain stirred. The heavens dimmed. Stars shifted. A bolt of lightning flashed across the sky, and Suzumo, along with the entire chessboard, vanished into the void. "My lord!" Paimon shouted in alarm. But Paimon's shout came too late. The void had already closed, and Suzumo was gone. No one knew where he had been sent. "It's fine," said Sevenface nearby. "This is merely a limited primal Tao formation. Most likely it's a test left by the White Emperor." "Let's hope the White Emperor is not an enemy," Paimon replied grimly. "Even for our lord, facing a saint sovereign could still be dangerous." When Suzumo's vision cleared again, he found himself in the midst of a vast starry sky. The heavens glimmered with countless stars, and a bright full moon hung high above. Before him, the chessboard reappeared, but this time, the man sitting opposite him was no longer a statue of stone. He was alive. "It seems someone has passed the trial," said the white-haired man calmly. "You are the White Emperor?" Suzumo asked. "That's right," the man answered without hesitation. "Since you have passed the test, you may now claim my inheritance." "What kind of test?" Suzumo asked. "Look at this chessboard," the White Emperor said, pointing with his right hand. Previously, the board had been filled entirely with black pieces. But now, as Suzumo looked again, he saw that there were no pieces at all, only countless living beings. The entire chessboard seemed to expand, encompassing the whole ghost god heaven. Among the multitude of black pieces, there was only one white piece. Hundreds of black stones surrounded that single white piece, sealing every path of retreat. There was no escape. "People often say that life is like a game of chess," the White Emperor said softly. "But true life, how could it ever be so simple? On a chessboard, black and white compete with equal numbers. But in real life, there is only one white piece." He moved the board slightly, positioning the white piece at the center. "All the rest are black. Tell me, where can the white one go?" After speaking, he sighed deeply. "Darkness forever endures." "What do you want me to say?" Suzumo asked quietly. "This chessboard is a dead game," the White Emperor replied. "If you were that single white piece, how would you break free?" Suzumo fell silent for a while, then chuckled. "Have you ever heard this saying?" "What saying?" the White Emperor asked. "If you can't beat them," Suzumo said, extending a finger, "join them." He lightly tapped the lone white piece. Instantly, The white stone glowed, then turned completely black. The White Emperor paused, startled. "What do you mean by this?" he asked. "If the white piece remains white, all the black pieces will unite against it," Su Zimo explained calmly. "But if it becomes black, then once the formation of all the black pieces is complete, it will no longer be their target. Then, from within, it can slowly plan and rise again." The White Emperor blinked, then nodded slightly. "Your reasoning is a little unorthodox, but refreshingly clear. What you've said, in fact, is exactly what we have been doing." "Then I've passed the test?" Su Zimo asked. "You have," the White Emperor replied. "But I want to ask you something else." "What is it?" "What is your view on the ultimate battle to defy heaven?" the White Emperor asked. "Those who seek to defy heaven have their reasons," Su Zimo said. "Everyone's destiny follows a different path. Such questions cannot be answered by others. They can only be answered by one's own heart. Some people rise to defy heaven because they've seen the truth of this world. They see farther than others, and wish to reshape it according to their will. But most people, being ordinary, simply accept the world's rules." "I see. I hope that one day we may meet again." The White Emperor smiled softly. "And I also hope that we never do." His words were cryptic, and before Su Zimo could respond, his figure shattered completely into light. He had only left behind a fragment of consciousness, no true being capable of changing anything. The chessboard dissolved, the starry sky cracked open, and Su Zimo found himself once again atop the summit of White Emperor Mountain. Paimon and Seven-Face had been waiting for quite some time. Before either could speak, the entire White Emperor Mountain began to tremble violently. A deafening rumble echoed as the mountain cracked apart, splitting from the center. The once towering peak divided into two halves, and from the rift burst three glowing lights. Each light seemed to possess a will of its own, scattering in different directions across the heavens. Su Zimo immediately waved his hand, expanding his divine power to capture them all. He pierced the first sphere of light, revealing within it a fruit, azure blue, radiating a strange aura. It was not quite the Tao, yet somehow still akin to the Tao. "What is this?" Su Zimo asked, glancing at Paimon. "I've never seen anything like it," Paimon replied, shaking his head. "If the White Emperor left it behind, it must have some special meaning. Best to keep it for now." Su Zimo nodded, then opened the second sphere of light. Inside was the very thing he had come to find, the traceless compass. The compass was perfectly circular, its wood of unknown origin. 2 inner rings and 3 outer rings encircled it, etched with mysterious symbols. Su Zimo could only barely recognize a few characters. Heaven and Earth, Jai, Zicho. "This is the heavenly script," Paimon explained after a glance. "It records the 8 trigrams, the 10 celestial stems, and the 12 earthly branches. As for the rest, I can't decipher it. The heavenly script is directly linked to the secrets of the heavenly Tao. Few ever get the chance to see it. With this compass," Su Zimo said solemnly, "we can finally locate the wood god Jumong's inheritance." He carefully stored the compass away, then opened the third and final light. Inside was a book with a crimson cover. 3 bold characters were written across it: "To live twice." Flipping through it, Su Zimo discovered it was a manual teaching how to cultivate a second body or an avatar outside oneself, just like the relationship between the robed scholar and the White Emperor. "Interesting," he murmured, putting the book away. "Let's go." After sending Paimon and Seven-Face back into the god world, Su Zimo set off toward the Demighost region. When he passed by White Emperor City, the battle between the 3 Saint Sovereigns had reached its zenith. To his surprise, Madman Chu was now completely berserk. Unleashing his ultimate sword technique, he had fallen into a state of utter madness. His scarlet eyes blazed with bloodlight, his aura fluctuating between the Chaos Primordial and Eternal Overlord stages. The sheer force of his power pressed the Abyssal Tyrant into a defensive struggle. Madman Chu truly lived up to his name, a madman beyond reason, fighting purely on instinct, as though his body moved without his mind. It was like watching a corpse fight, but one so terrifyingly powerful that it made space and time itself tremble. The abyssal tyrant could barely resist. Every swing of Madman Chu's sword was filled with boundless, unending sword intent. Even Red Blade Bull Demon couldn't intervene, and could only watch helplessly from the side. Truly a madman, Suzumo smiled. After one last glance, he turned and left. The Demighost region lay in the northwest of the ghost god heaven. It was said to have once been the heartland of the almighty spectral ghost race, who had claimed it during the ancient ghost god apocalypse. The area was eternally shrouded in eerie, sinister mist. The Demighost region bordered the Halfgrave region, stretching from Chongning City in the east to the God Valley of Buried Souls in the west. Following the map's path, Suzumo flew for 7 days through the void before finally arriving at the God Valley of Buried Souls. The size of the God Valley of Buried Souls was far beyond Suzumo's imagination. It stretched for hundreds of billions of square miles from east to west, so vast that it nearly encompassed half of the Demighost region, which itself was one of the many regions of Ghost God Heaven. Everywhere he looked were countless tombstones and burial pits. The reason was simple. Buried here were all the dead from the ancient war between primal gods and spectral ghosts. There were gods and there were ghosts. Even now, one could faintly hear the wailing of those fallen spirits. The valley was utterly desolate. Other than the black crows and shadow vultures circling overhead, there was no sign of life. Under the blackened soil, fragments of pale bones were half buried, giving the place an eerie and chilling atmosphere. Suzumo descended from the gloomy sky, standing at the entrance to the valley. Behind him followed the massive figure of Red Blade Bull Demon. Though Suzumo had left earlier, the Bull Demon's speed as a Saint Sovereign was unmatched. He could sense Suzumo's aura and catch up easily. "The battle's over?" Suzumo asked. "How did it end?" "That Madman Chu truly lives up to his name," Red Blade Bull Demon replied with a grin. "I couldn't even get close." The abyssal tyrant withdrew, probably waiting until he recovers to his peak before fighting again. "That's none of our concern," Suzumo said calmly. "Once we obtain the wood god Jumong's inheritance, we'll leave Ghost God Heaven. The death aura here is thick," the Bull Demon noted, frowning as he looked toward the valley. An ordinary person might only feel its coldness, but as a Saint Sovereign, his senses could reach much deeper. The deathly energy blanketed the land for billions of miles. Any ordinary being who entered would have their flesh dissolved and their bones turned to dust. "Master, this place is too heavily tainted with death. Even you won't be able to stay long," the Bull Demon warned. "So many must have died here." "I don't know the number," Suzumo replied, "but I've heard that ever since that battle, light has never returned to the Ghost God Heaven. The sun itself fell from the sky. You can imagine how devastating that war must have been. Let's not enter yet. We'll look around the area first. There may be another way." "I saw a village at the foot of that mountain when I came," Red Blade Bull Demon said. "Perhaps we can inquire there." Suzumo nodded. The God Valley of Buried Souls lay atop a high ridge. Descending from it, he found himself in a lush forest teeming with life. Unlike the deathly desolation above, this area was full of birdsong and green trees, two completely different worlds. After walking down the slope, Suzumo saw the entrance to a small village flanked by two enormous ginseng trees. These trees did not bear fruit, but their trunks were shaped like human figures, ancient and strange. What was even odder was that the ginseng tree on the left had two long whisker-like tendrils hanging down. "Young man, welcome to our forgetful village," said the ginseng tree, speaking with a deep, resonant voice as Suzumo approached. "Forgetful village?" Suzumo murmured. "You must be heading for the God Valley of Buried Souls," the ginseng tree continued. "How do you know that?" Suzumo asked. "No one comes this way unless they're bound for the valley," the tree replied. "This place rarely sees visitors." "Then perhaps you know a way through?" Suzumo said. "I've observed that the valley's death aura is too heavy. Entering it will be difficult," the tree said. "But our village has a sacred spring. the ancient clear spring. Drink from it, and you can pass through the God Valley of Buried Souls unharmed. How can I obtain some of this spring water? Suzimo asked. There's no rush, the ginseng tree chuckled. You've come from far away. Let us first show our hospitality. With a wave of its thick branches, the air rippled, and laughter echoed from within the village. Soon, several elderly figures emerged. They looked aged and wise, their clothes woven from leaves, their long beards resembling tree roots, and their hair like green foliage. They were dryads, ancient beings who had cultivated for 1,000 years and taken human form. Welcome, young man, said the elder at the front with a kind smile. We've prepared a feast in your honor. Please join us. I came seeking only the ancient clear spring, Suzimo replied. Please stay and dine with us tonight, the elder said warmly. When you leave tomorrow, we'll send you away with the spring water you seek. Suzimo frowned slightly but said nothing, allowing the elder to lead him into the village. Once inside, he was surprised to find that aside from a few elders, the rest of the villagers were all women, beautiful women, standing along the village's main road, holding garlands and smiling in welcome. What is all this about? Suzimo asked. This is our traditional greeting ceremony, the elder said with a laugh. Please don't be concerned. Following the elder, Suzimo was brought to an open clearing. Tables were laid out with all manner of fruits, pastries, and wine. The air was filled with rich fragrance that instantly lifted the spirit and soothed the mind. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the elder gestured for Suzimo to take the seat of honor. When he did, bonfires were lit on both sides, and the village came alive with cheerful music. In the center of the flames, a woman dressed in exotic Western attire began to dance gracefully, her every movement flowing like ripples of moonlight. Drink, young man, the elder said, raising his cup with a smile. Suzimo rarely had the chance to relax, so he accepted the invitation and drank several cups. The wine spread through his body in waves of warmth, soothing his organs and leaving him feeling utterly at ease. What an excellent wine, he remarked. What business brings you to the God Valley of Buried Souls? The elder asked. My home lies within the Demighost region, Suzimo answered casually. Do you have family waiting for you there? The elder pressed. I've been gone for a long time, Suzimo said, shaking his head. I'm not sure how many remain. As for the spring water, I'll rely on your help, elder. It's no trouble at all, the elder said, smiling as he gestured toward the dancer in the center of the firelight. This is my youngest daughter. She's in her 20s, well-learned, kind, and accomplished in every art. What do you think of her? The corner of Suzimo's mouth lifted. Elder, you're not trying to hook me up with a marriage, are you? The elder laughed heartily. The God Valley of Buried Souls is filled with restless spirits and countless dangers. The road ahead is uncertain. Why not stay here, marry my daughter, and live in peace within our forgetful village? A life without worry. Wouldn't that be wonderful? I have no plans to marry, elder. You don't need to say any more, Suzimo said with a smile, waving his hand. The elder chuckled, clinking his cup against Suzimo's once again. Tell me, young man, how's the wine? Excellent, Suzimo nodded. Our village is called Forgetful Village because of this very wine, the elder said, smiling strangely. It's called Forgetful Wine. Oh, Suzimo raised a brow. Does it make one lose their memory after drinking it? How do you feel right now? The elder asked, standing up slowly. Nothing out of the ordinary, Suzimo replied calmly. The elder frowned slightly. Suddenly, countless branches erupted from the ground beneath Suzimo's feet, wrapping around him and binding him in place. Who exactly are you? The elders demanded, stepping back cautiously. Suzimo gave a faint smile. Funny, I was just about to ask you the same thing. He flexed slightly, and with sheer physical strength alone, shattered the bindings of branches around him. When I first arrived, I thought you were all dryads who'd cultivated into human form, he said evenly. But now you reek of decay. Judging by that stench, you've been dead for quite some time. Take him down first, the leading elder snapped coldly. In that instant, the two massive ginseng trees at the village entrance began to twist and turn. The entire village started to shift, transforming into a living labyrinth. Everyone inside, the women, the elders, the trees, turned into pitch-black trunks radiating dense death energy. The once vibrant forest was now nothing but dead soil. The air grew cold. Tombstones began to burst from the earth, one after another. The entire place had turned into an extension of the God Valley of Buried Souls. Crows cawed above, and the rotting trees around him began to move, growing legs and charging toward Suzimo. Suzimo frowned slightly. The primal Tao of fire flickered to life in his hand. Fire, the natural enemy of wood. A torrent of flame roared forth, sweeping through the air and engulfing the earth in a blazing inferno. The trees crackled and exploded under the heat, filling the air with hissing and popping sounds. A cold, wailing wind blew through the ruins, sounding eerily like the cries of the dead. "Seems someone doesn't want me here," Suzimo said with a smirk, scanning the surroundings. "In that case, I'll carve out a bloody path myself." The aura of his blade surged outward. Shadow Tyrant appeared in his hand, resting easily against his shoulder. When he unleashed his blade intent, he didn't bother to restrain it. Everything within his line of sight was instantly reduced to nothingness. Ahead, skeletal arms clawed their way out from beneath the tombstones, and bone-white figures began to rise one after another. Dead trees sprouted legs and gathered into formation, weaving themselves into a massive, foul-smelling array filled with ghostly figures. Suzimo sneered. "Just a pack of rabble." The flames spread from him in all directions, devouring everything within several miles. Then he tossed the traceless compass into the air. The compass spun rapidly, its markings of the 8 trigrams shifting continuously. A moment later, a radiant path opened up in the sky, its light shining across the darkened valley. From an outside perspective, it looked as if divine light had pierced the cursed land. But from Suzimo's view, his mind had entered a state of absolute clarity. His eyes could now perceive the workings of fate itself, the omens of fortune and calamity glowing before him in ever-changing colors. Each hue represented a different destiny. Great misfortune or great blessing. Suzimo smiled faintly. With this compass, at least he wouldn't lose his way in the God Valley of Buried Souls. He followed the path of good fortune, the traceless compass hovering above his head as his blade aura swept outward, covering thousands of miles and shaking the heavens. Deep within the God Valley of Buried Souls, in a hidden underground lair, raucous laughter echoed. Below the cavern throne were countless bone demons, cheering and drinking wildly. On the throne sat a gigantic rat, its body covered in yellow fur, its face narrow and vicious. It held a huge piece of cheese in its mouth, snoring loudly as it slept, blowing bubbles the size of boulders. The white bone imps beneath him were making merry, shouting and laughing. "Our God Valley of Buried Souls is one of the great forbidden lands of the ghost god Heaven," one of the skeletons bragged. "That's right. Even if a grand emperor came here, he'd have to bow to us," another cackled proudly. "We may not be much in the outside world, but here, this is the realm of the dead. Our realm." "Shoo! Keep your voice down," one hissed. "You'll wake the king. Then you'll really be in trouble." "Whose turn is it to guard the entrance today?" "I think it was Bone Elder's shift. But it's been a while. Maybe he's caught something big." The skeletons laughed among themselves, until one came stumbling in, shouting frantically. "My lord! My lord! Something terrible has happened." The massive rat stirred, the bubbles at its mouth bursting with a pop. It opened its sharp eyes irritably, grabbed the panicked skeleton by the neck, and lifted him up. "You woke this king's nap. Has the sky fallen?" "And not quite," the skeleton stammered. Before it could finish, there was a slap. The rat swatted it across the room. "The sky hasn't fallen. So what are you screeching about?" "It's an intruder, my lord," the skeleton cried. A terrifying one. He's slaughtering everything in his path. He's nearly reached the main cavern. What about the guards? The rat demanded. Dead, my lord. Killed with a single strike. Bone King is the only one still holding him off. A bunch of useless fools. The rat growled, rising from its throne. Its obese body shook as it moved, making the ground tremble beneath each step. Come. Let's see who dares disturb this king's slumber. With a wave of his claw, the rat led an army of skeleton demons toward the entrance. In the forest of bones, the cold wind howled. Tombstones jutted from the ground, and the sound of shattering bones echoed faintly. Suzimo stood before a towering figure, the Bone King. Its entire body was composed of razor-sharp bones, each one gleaming like a blade. Suzimo swung Shadow Tyrant. A thunderous explosion followed. The Bone King was cleaved in half, but almost immediately, the shattered bones reassembled themselves, restoring its form. In this place you can't kill me, the Bone King laughed. The valley is filled with bones. I'll never run out. Is that so? Suzimo said quietly. He raised his blade toward the sky. Thunder answered. A pillar of lightning crashed down, splitting the heavens like the wrath of the gods. It engulfed the Bone King completely, and screams tore through the air. You wield fire, not lightning. How is this possible? The Bone King howled. What kind of primal Tao do you want? I can give you any, Suzimo said indifferently. Bones were by nature a force of death and gloom. Though they feared no flame, lightning was the most masculine and righteous force under heaven, their ultimate nemesis. Thunder raged across the sky, and streaks of bluish light crackled violently, flashing like the scythe of death itself. Purple lightning arcs leapt through the air, each one making the heart tremble. Damn it! Let me out! The Bone King screamed from within the prison of lightning, his voice filled with agony and rage. Suzimo paid him no mind. He snapped his fingers, and the thunder exploded. Both lightning and the Bone King's body were reduced to dust, annihilated in an instant. Then came a heavy rumble, thunderous footsteps pounding the ground. The Rat King emerged from his lair, leading an army of skeletons. He carried a massive spiked mace on his shoulder, its barbs gleaming with cold light and exuding a suffocating aura. Which fool dares cause trouble in my domain? The Rat King bellowed arrogantly. When he finally stood before Suzimo, his towering body loomed like a mountain-sized rat, looking down from above. A mere human, trespassing in our god valley of buried souls? The Rat King sneered, raising his mace without another word and smashing it down toward Suzimo. The impact alone, just the sound, shattered countless bones around them. Blade and mace collided. Waves of power rippled outward, shaking the earth. The two figures separated. The Rat King looked at his weapon and saw a faint blade mark carved into its surface. What a formidable blade, he muttered coldly. His beady eyes rolled, whiskers twitching sharply. He raised the mace again and charged. Suzimo laughed softly. The Rat King possessed great strength, but his massive, bloated body made every movement sluggish. Spotting his opening, Suzimo stepped in close. Shadow Tyrant, wreathed in fierce flames, stabbed straight forward, piercing the Rat King squarely in the rear. A scream that could shake the heavens tore through the forest of bones. The Rat King leapt several dozen meters high, howling, "You little brat! You fight dirty! All's fair in battle," Suzimo smiled. He lifted his blade again, releasing another arc of burning energy. A deafening explosion followed as the Rat King was blasted backward through the air. "Meteorfall Rod!" The Rat King shrieked from above. The spiked mace in his hand began to glow, falling like a meteor shower, every swing leaving streaks of burning light. His movements grew smoother, faster, each strike crashing down like a comet. The ground caved in under the force, riddled with craters. The storm of mace strikes was suffocatingly dense, tearing apart everything in its path. Suzimo retreated quickly, eyes narrowing, gauging his rhythm. Then he struck. Shadow Tyrant darted forward, sliding perfectly into the narrow gap between the mace's spinning arcs. The weapon's momentum froze for a split second. Just enough. Suzumo's advance didn't slow. His blade thrust forward again. A sharp boom echoed. The blade pierced straight into the Rat King's chest. Green blood spilled down, thick with rot and decay. But Shadow Tyrant was uncorrupted. It churned inside the wound, slicing the Rat King apart from within. Let's test that technique. Eightfold heaven splitting, Suzumo murmured. An explosion of blade intent surged from within him, tearing the air itself. The small blade left behind by Lu Shang flew out, diving straight into the Rat King's body. Unstoppable. Indestructible. Blinding light erupted from within, bursting through the Rat King's flesh. The cutting aura could have cleaved the heavens themselves. The Rat King's face froze in horror. Time seemed to stop. Then only light. Endless, blinding light and the overwhelming force of the heaven-splitting blade intent. The forest of bones trembled violently as the light flashed across it, illuminating the entire grove before fading away. When the brightness vanished, there was no trace of the Rat King, only Suzumo standing silently amidst the ruin. As he walked forward, each step echoed like the footsteps of death itself. The bone demons scattered in panic, trampling over each other in their desperate flight. Many were crushed underfoot. These things ruled the God Valley of Buried Souls? Suzumo said, frowning in mild disbelief. But almost as if in answer to his doubt, a gust of sinister wind swept through the valley. The air turned dark. Sand and stones whirled violently as the sky dimmed to pitch black. The evil wind surrounded Suzumo, his long black hair whipping wildly in the storm. The fleeing skeletons were caught up by the wind, lifted screaming into the air. Living bones, broken bones, all were swept together, mingling in the raging current. Black wind and white bone interwove, forming a suffocating cyclone that trapped Suzumo within. Then a commanding voice echoed through the darkness. Seal! The air itself shifted, space twisting around him. A formation, Suzumo murmured. Within the storm, bones gathered and fused. The 28 Fiends' Netherworld formation. The voice intoned again. Murderous energy thickened above, while the sound of flowing water, eerily like the river of the dead, whispered faintly in the wind. Since you've come to the God Valley of Buried Souls, the voice said mockingly, why not test the power of my formation? It's a fine formation, Suzumo said lightly. A pity. He raised his left hand. The heaven derivation astrolabe appeared. In his right, the traceless compass spun freely. Between the two godly artifacts, few places in the world could truly bar his path. The twin star compasses hovered above him, rotating together. Constellations, trigrams, and the cosmic patterns of heaven and earth shifted in unison. Suzumo began to walk forward. To ordinary eyes, his steps seemed unhurried and calm. But to those versed in the Tao of formations, every stride carried profound rhythm, each footfall tracing the flow of cosmic geometry. Formations could change infinitely, yet his every step adjusted precisely in response, unraveling their secrets. Even a formation master could not move with such flawless precision. As he stepped into the howling darkness, the fiendish energy surged toward him. He took another step, exactly enough to evade the oncoming strike. No matter how vicious the formation became, Suzumo advanced calmly. The evil wind could not touch him. The river of death did not stain his robes. Behind him, the formation roared in fury, its deathly energy collapsing upon itself. Then, emerging from the gloom, he saw a few ancient trees ahead. Upon their branches perched black crows, their feathers glinting coldly as they stared down at him. It's been a long time since I've seen such a powerful being. One of the crows croaked, speaking with a human voice. Why hide behind a puppet? Suzumo replied evenly. Show yourself. He could tell the crow wasn't the mastermind. It was merely a vessel, a mouthpiece. The true hand behind the curtain remained unseen.